Chapter 562. The crowd came closer and closer. Soon, they were within 10 meters of Lin Tian and Ling Yun. Many people were pointing at them. Young Master Gu, he is Lin Tian. Beside Gu Jianxin, a young man in brocade clothes pointed at Lin Tian now. This person was Luo Changheng, a true disciple of the Emergence Dao sect. He was one of the strongest true disciples and was ranked at the top. He was Gu Jianxin's follower. Lin Tian frowned. Were these people here for him? Luo Changheng, what do you mean? Ling Yun asked. Luo Changheng glanced at Ling Yun but did not say anything. Beside him, Gu Jianxin took a step forward. His eyes were sharp as he looked down at Lin Tian. Outer disciple Lin Tian, I heard that you killed that trash Yu Qianling and might even defeat me. I think this is very interesting. Everyone was shocked when they heard this. Yu Qianling was trash? Only Gu Jianxin had the right to say this. These people thought about it. If Yu Qianling was compared to Gu Jianxin, then Yu Qianling was indeed trash. That was because Gu Jianxin was strong enough. Very strong. Lin Tian was very calm. He looked at Gu Jianxin indifferently. He wanted to see what Gu Jianxin was thinking. Gu Jianxin sneered. I want to see how many moves the person who is said to be able to defeat me can take. Gu Jianxin stared at Lin Tian with his hands behind his back. He was like an emperor surveying the world. Fight with you? Do I know you? Lin Tian asked. Gu Jianxin's eyes were threatening. Shouldn't you know me? Lin Tian couldn't help but smile. He was curious. Are you the sky? Or the earth? Why should I know you? The crowd was stunned. They stared at Lin Tian in disbelief. Was this guy mocking Gu Jianxin? How dare you be rude to young Master Gu? Luo Changheng's face darkened. He took a step forward and stared coldly at Lin Tian. Ling Yun mocked. Luo Changheng, you're a good dog. However, when the master is talking, the dog better not interrupt. Luo Changheng's eyes turned cold. Ling Yun, you're provoking me. Not long after, the number one position of the successor disciple will be. Shut up! Gu Jianxin shouted coldly and interrupted Luo Changheng. He's right. Don't interrupt me when I'm talking. Luo Changheng's face froze, and he could not help taking a step back, not saying anything. Ha 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 ha, that's right. A slave should act like a slave. Ling Yun laughed. Luo Changheng's face turned green as he glared at Ling Yun viciously. Gu Jianxin glanced at Ling Yun before looking at Lin Tian. His gaze was as sharp as a knife. He took out a piece of white paper with the word battle written on it. He threw the paper into the ground in front of Lin Tian. I heard that you had to wait 10 days for your battle with that trash Yu Qianling. I'll give you 5 more days to prepare. Half a month from now, we'll fight at the martial arts arena. After saying that, Gu Jianxin glanced coldly at Lin Tian before turning around and heading towards the core disciple's residence. Luo Changheng glared at Ling Yun viciously before leaving with Gu Jianxin. Soon, they disappeared around a corner. That Gu Jianxin actually wants Lin Tian to fight with him? There were many people around, and many of them were shocked. Many people stared at Lin Tian in astonishment. Ling Yun curled his lips and said, Kid, you're in trouble again. You're a troublemaker. Are you blaming me? Lin Tian glanced at the perverted thief. Ling Yun spread out his hands and said, Gu Jianxin, 28, the number 1 core disciple. His cultivation is at the 2nd tier of the Ascension Immortal Realm. His master is a reclusive elder of the sect. In the past 3 years, 5 people have been able to shake his throne. It can be said that this generation's saint should be none other than him. No one can compete with him. Ling Yun briefly introduced Gu Jianxin to Lin Tian. Lin Tian tilted his head. What does it have to do with me? It really has nothing to do with you. Ling Yun shook his head and stared at the challenge letter on the ground. Are you going to fight or not? Do I look like an idiot to you? Lin Tian looked at Ling Yun. If a random stranger jumped out and asked him to fight for no reason, would he fight? You don't. Ling Yun shook his head. I think Gu Jianxin is more like it. However, he's an idiot with strength. Strength or not, it can hide the fact that he's an idiot, Lin Tiantan said indifferently. After saying that, he walked forward. Whether it was intentional or not, he stepped on the challenge letter and crushed it. Ling Yun shrugged and didn't say anything. He followed him. On this day, Lin Tian and Ling Yun walked around the Ascension Immortal Sect and passed by many places. During this process, Lin Tianyi strolled and used the Dragon Burial scripture to comprehend the Ascension Immortal Sect's power. Of course, it was just a slight comprehension. There was no other purpose. After that, he said goodbye to Ling Yun at dusk and returned to the small courtyard in the outer sect residential area. Very soon, the sky darkened. At night, Lin Tian silently cultivated the Dragon Burial scripture. Dense dragon talismans surrounded him. It was very magical. The night passed very quickly. The next day, after facing the morning sun, Lin Tian brought Shui Yi to the Immortal Spirit Valley of the Ascension Immortal Sect as usual. 7 days of cultivation and 1 day of rest. He had a very regular schedule. We'll leave in 7 days. He opened a stone room for Shui Yi. Naturally, his stone room was next to Shui Yi. Walking into the stone room, Lin Tian activated the Four Extremities scripture. A faint halo surrounded him as he cultivated silently. Very soon, 7 days passed. Soon, I should be able to enter the 7th heaven of the Imperial Sky Realm, he muttered to himself as he walked out of the stone room. Together with Shui Yi, he returned to the outer sect residential area. After resting for a day, he went to the Immortal Spirit Valley to cultivate again. Very soon, another 7 days passed. On this day, the martial arts practice field became lively again. It was filled with people. Looking over, a young man stood in the center of the main arena with his hands behind his back. His eyes were very cold. It was Gu Jianchen. In the blink of an eye, 15 days had passed. Today was the day that Gu Jianchen invited Lin Tian to the martial arts practice field. Many Ascension Sect disciples came to the martial arts practice field. There were even more people than on the 15th day. It was all because Gu Jianchen wanted to fight Lin Tianyi here. Of these 2 people, one was the first core disciple, and the other had killed Ji Qianling with absolute power not long ago. He didn't even move his feet. The battle between the 2 naturally attracted the attention of many people. Jianchen, that Lin Tian may have killed Ji Qianling, but how can he be your opponent? You've overestimated him. Someone beside the martial arts practice field said. It was the second core disciple, Shi Qiuji. I can't tolerate even a single grain of sand in my eyes. Gu Jianchen sneered. Overestimating him? Wrong. I just want to cripple him in front of everyone. I want to let those people see if there's anyone in the Ascension sect who can defeat him. There really is someone who can defeat me. Many Ascension sect disciples around the martial arts practice field trembled when they heard this. They secretly thought that Gu Jianchen was overbearing and vicious. Lin Tian had no enmity with him, but Gu Jianchen wanted to cripple Lin Tian in front of everyone just because someone said that Lin Tian could defeat him. Of course, these people could only think about it in their hearts. They didn't dare to say it out loud. Time passed minute by minute. Soon it was noon. Gu Jianchen stood in the martial arts practice field with his hands behind his back. He had already waited for 6 hours, but Lin Tian still hadn't arrived. This caused Gu Jianchen's eyes to darken. His hands behind his back flashed with a cold sword light. He's probably afraid of fighting and doesn't dare to come. Shi Qiuji shook his head. I told him to fight. How dare he not fight? Gu Jianchen's eyes were cold. Soon, another 6 hours passed. The sun was setting in the west. It was already dusk. Many people around the martial arts practice field looked at each other. Was Lin Tian going to be late again? Just like when he fought with Yu Qianling? At this moment, a young man in embroidered clothes walked over from afar and landed beside Gu Jianhe. It was Gu Jianchen's follower, Luo Changheng. Young Master Gu, that Lin Tian is meditating in the courtyard of the outer sect residence. It seems like. After a pause, Luo Changheng's expression turned slightly ugly. It seems like he doesn't plan on coming. Luo Changheng's voice was very soft, but many people around the martial arts practice field still heard it. They were all shocked and in disbelief. Gu Jianchen had personally challenged Lin Tian to a battle in the martial arts practice field. However, Lin Tian seemed to have completely ignored Gu Jianchen. On the day that was supposed to be a battle, he was actually meditating in his own courtyard. This was a slap to Gu Jianchen's face. You're courting death. Gu Jianchen's eyes flashed with a hint of ferocity. A chilling aura spread out as he headed straight for the outer sect residence. Many people were shocked as if they knew what was going to happen. Many people hurriedly followed after him. In the outer sect residence, Lin Tian was sitting cross-legged on a green stone in the courtyard. Coincidentally, there was sunlight shining on this place. It was very warm. This was a day of rest. He didn't cultivate and instead meditated leisurely while bathing in the sunlight. It was very peaceful. I'll cultivate in the immortal Spirit Valley for another 7 days to stabilize my chi and blood to the peak. Then, I'll refine the head-sized lingjing I got from God Burial Mountain. Then, I should be able to reach the 7th celestial layer of the Imperial Sky Realm. Lin Tian muttered to himself. After cultivating for a while, he stopped meditating. His left leg was bent, and his right leg was stretched out. He raised his head and closed his eyes. The sunlight was very warm. Resting in the sunlight like this was a kind of enjoyment. At least, it was much easier than cultivating. At this moment, a rumbling sound came from the front. Lin Tian frowned and opened his eyes. Looking around, he saw a group of people walking towards this place. The person at the front was Gu Jianchen. Lin Tian's eyes flashed. He still sat on the green stone and didn't get up. He just stared indifferently ahead. Soon, the group of people approached and Gu Jianchen stepped into the courtyard. I asked you to fight? How dare you not go? Staring at Lin Tian, Gu Jianchen's words were cold. He asked Lin Tian to fight in the martial arts field. Lin Tian actually dared to ignore his words. Lin Tian sat on the green stone and stared coldly at Gu Jianchen. Get out. Gu Jianchen's face darkened. You want me to get out? With a boom, an extremely terrifying sword intent surged out. It carried a bone-piercing killing intent, causing everyone to tremble. End of chapter. Chapter 563. Gu Jianchen unleashed his sword intent. It was as if he had turned into a peerless divine sword. The sword aura he released was extremely terrifying. Facing this aura, many people retreated in horror. This sword intent was too terrifying. It was as if it could tear everything apart. Lin Tian sat on the green stone. His eyes were even colder. I'll say it again. Get out! Immediately! Now! Gu Jianchen's eyes were even colder. The sword light broke through his body and pressed down on Lin Tian. Crack! With a crisp sound, the green stone Lin Tian sat on was shattered. Lin Tian dodged to the side and stood firmly on the ground. His eyes were completely cold as he stared at Gu Jianchen. Boom! In an instant, the small courtyard shook, and the void in all directions distorted. Beams of killing light shot into the sky, and formation patterns filled the sky. It's the same formation that he used against Yu Qianling. There's one here too? Outside the courtyard, everyone's expression changed. Gu Jianchen's eyes were threatening. The sword intent outside his body was even stronger. He stared at Lin Tian. And today you can't. Clang. Poof. The killing light vibrated like a sword and landed on Gu Jianchen's body. He spat out blood and was sent flying. You! Poof! A ray of light fell from the sky and pierced through Gu Jianchen's right leg. Blood splattered in the air. This? Gu Jianchen is injured. His right leg has been pierced. Outside the courtyard, everyone was shocked. The second core disciple, Shi Qiuji, was shocked. Beside him, Luo Changheng's expression changed drastically. Gu Jianchen had actually been injured. And he was injured in the blink of an eye. Boom! An even more terrifying sword intent surged. Gu Jianqin's face became ferocious. He stared at Lin Tian like a beast. Lin Tian! You! Poof! A dozen rays of sword light flew over and shattered the sword aura outside Gu Jianqin's body. He was sent flying again. Lin Tian's eyes were cold. A few months ago, when he left the Ascension Dao sect to train, he had engraved the triangular eternal killing formation around his small courtyard. At this moment, he directly activated the two corners of the formation. Instantly, killing light overflowed and shook the heavens. Then, he opened the final corner of the killing formation as well. Even more terrifying killing light surged, covering all directions. At this moment, he stood in the small courtyard like a god. Ah! Gu Jianqin roared as violent killing intent intertwined. Lin Tian had actually injured him several times in a row. Trash that only knows how to shout and shout, Lin Tianling said coldly. These words immediately caused Gu Jianqin's expression to become incomparably ferocious. Lin Tian actually dared to call him trash. What did you say? Staring at Lin Tian, Gu Jianqin gave off an even more ferocious aura. He really did seem like a ferocious beast. Get out! Lin Tianling said. With a boom, the void trembled. A majestic killing intent swept out, and with a bang, Gu Jianqin was sent flying dozens of feet away. In the distance, a strange stone tablet shattered. Gu Jianqin was covered in blood. His clothes were torn, and he was in an extremely sorry state. Young Master Gu! Luo Changhen quickly ran over with a face full of shock. The powerful Gu Jianqin, the strongest disciple of the Ascension Dao sect, was injured to such an extent in the blink of an eye. In the surroundings, the other cultivators were all in a daze. Gu Jianqin was domineering. He asked Lin Tian to go to the martial arts practice field to fight, but Lin Tian directly ignored him and did not go. This made Gu Jianqin furious. He directly forced Lin Tian from the martial arts practice field to Lin Tian's residence, wanting to attack Lin Tian. However, the result was that he was sent flying out of the small courtyard by Lin Tian in the blink of an eye. He was heavily injured and fell in the distance with blood all over his body. This caused the many disciples of the Ascension Dao sect who had arrived to gasp. Some of them stared at Lin Tian, who was standing in the courtyard, and couldn't help but tremble. This person was so terrifying. In the distance, even the powerful second core disciple Shi Qiuji was shocked. His eyes were filled with shock. Lin Tian! A roar sounded in the distance. Gu Jianqin stood up, his body covered in blood. His face was pale as he stared at Lin Tian ferociously. A sword appeared in his hand. The blade was surrounded by a cold light as he approached the small courtyard step by step. Lin Tian raised his head and looked over. His eyes were cold and ruthless. If you dare to take another step into this courtyard, I'll kill you directly, he said coldly. As if in response to his words, the eternal runes in the surroundings shone brightly. An even more terrifying killing intent surged out. It was as if the killing intent of the Milky Way had fallen from the sky, shattering a large part of the surrounding void. After saying that, he didn't even look at Gu Jianqin. He directly walked back into the house and closed the door with a bang. For a moment, there was only a terrifying killing intent lingering around the courtyard. Gu Jianqin's clothes were tattered. His expression was extremely ugly. He held his cold sword and veins popped out on his forehead. He wanted to rush in, but the killing intent surrounding the courtyard was indeed terrifying. He didn't have the confidence to block it. Let's go! In the end, Gu Jianqin roared and turned to leave. Luo Changhen didn't dare to stay and quickly followed. The second core disciple Shi Qiuji looked at the small courtyard in front of him in shock. In the end, he also left this place. Outside the small courtyard, the crowd was in a daze. Gu Jianqin came domineeringly, but in the end, he left in a sorry state. Too scary! Some people shrank their necks. Soon, the disciples of the Ascension Dao sect who came to this place left one by one. Many people were afraid of making Lin Tian unhappy. After all, last time, there was a crowd that followed Yu Qianling here. This time, There was a crowd that followed Gu Jianchen here. 2 times, so many people gathered in front of the door to watch the show. Any normal person wouldn't be happy. Lin Tian returned to the house. Shui Yu was washing vegetables and preparing to make dinner. Outside, the girl looked out of the house. The movement in the courtyard was so big that it was impossible for the girl not to feel it. It's fine. Lin Tian shook his head, indicating that the girl didn't need to worry. The girl nodded and didn't say anything else. She put her energy into the matter at hand. Dinner was soon ready. After eating, Lin Tian returned to his room and silently cultivated the dragon burial scripture. At this time, the eternal killing array outside the courtyard had calmed down. Lin Tian cultivated the 4 extremes scripture. The night passed quickly. The next morning, he had just walked out of the house to cultivate when Ling Yun jumped over from afar. He excitedly hooked his arm around Lin Tian's neck. Kid, I heard that you beat that bastard Gu Jianchen up so badly yesterday? Although yesterday's matter happened at dusk, it still spread throughout the Ascension Dao sect. Ling Yun naturally knew. What's wrong? Lin Tian glanced at him. Ling Yun laughed. Nothing, I just feel good. That bastard is so overbearing. He really thinks he's the best in the world. Lin Tian curled his lips and didn't say anything. Not long after, Shui Yu walked out of the house. After resting yesterday, it was time to go to the Immortal Spirit Valley to cultivate. With a beauty, I won't disturb you. I'll go laugh for a while. Ling Yun winked at Lin Tian and ran away. Lin Tian was speechless. He waited until Shui Yu closed the door before walking to the Immortal Spirit Valley. During this process, the 2 of them walked in the Ascension Dao sect and naturally attracted many shocked gazes. Many people stared at Lin Tian, their eyes full of respect and fear. After killing Yu Qianling a few months ago, Lin Tian showed his power again yesterday. He actually beat the number 1 core disciple so badly that he couldn't resist at all. This made everyone's hearts tremble. Lin Tian naturally didn't care about these gazes. Not long after, he and Shui Yi came to the Immortal Spirit Valley of the Ascension Dao sect. They chose 2 stone rooms near each other and put in a certain amount of level 9 beast cores. Then, they started cultivating together with the girl. This cultivation lasted for 7 days. After 7 days, his essence, chi, and spirit were all at their peak. His cultivation at the peak of the 6th heaven of the Zephyr realm was completely stabilized. A light flashed across his eyes. I can break through to the 7th heaven of the Zephyr realm. He stood up. Shui Yu was already waiting outside. The 2 of them walked out of the Immortal Spirit Valley and quickly returned to the outer sect residence. Not long after, night fell and the world darkened again. Lin Tian sat cross-legged in the room. A faint silver light flickered on the surface of his body. Buzz! The silver light flickered like starlight. After about 10 breaths, Lin Tian's aura became extremely condensed. His essence, chi, and spirit were at their peak. There was a kind of full state. It was like a pool that was completely filled with water and couldn't be filled anymore. At this time, Lin Tian took a deep breath and took out a piece of lingjing the size of a human head. He put the piece of lingjing between his legs. Then, the meridians of the 4 extremities circulated even faster. Buzz! Suddenly, the rich spirit chi in the lingjing rolled and surged into his body. When he was at the 5th heaven of the Zephyr realm, he used a piece of lingjing the size of a human head to reach the 6th heaven of the Zephyr realm. However, to reach the 7th heaven of the Zephyr realm from the 6th heaven of the Zephyr realm, 1 piece of lingjing the size of a human head was not enough. He would need at least 20 pieces of lingjing the size of a human head to do it. Therefore, even though he reached the peak of the 6th heaven of the Zephyr realm in the God Burial Mountain, he didn't immediately refine this piece of lingjing. Instead, he consolidated his cultivation and stabilized his chi and blood. It took him more than half a month to refine this piece of lingjing and reach the 7th heaven of the Zephyr realm. Buzz! He sat cross-legged and circulated the meridians of the 4 extremities over and over again. The spirit chi in the lingjing jumped like a small stream and was crazily absorbed into his body. At the same time, he immersed his consciousness in his body and guided the spirit chi into his true essence. He seriously refined his true essence, and erased the impurities in his true essence. Silver light intertwined around him. Soon, 6 hours passed. After 6 hours, the Lingjing that was the size of a human head had shrunk to the size of a baby's fist. It was also at this time that a strong force rushed out of Lin Tian's body. It was as if a door had been knocked open by something. Seventh heaven of the Zephyr realm! Lin Tian opened his eyes. 2 rays of light flashed and disappeared. He clenched his fist slightly. He could clearly feel that his true essence had become denser. His chi and blood had also become stronger. His strength had greatly improved compared to 6 hours ago. He clenched his fist again. He found that the strength of his physique still did not have any obvious changes. Perhaps there was some improvement, but the improvement was very small. It was almost negligible. It seems that only by reaching the immortal realm can the strength of the physical body be greatly improved. Chapter 564. Shaking his head, Lin Tian loosened his fist and closed his eyes. The 4 extremes meridians began to circulate again. At this time, Lingjing still had some left. With the help of the spiritual energy, he began to consolidate his cultivation of the 7th level of the Zephyr realm. Buzz! A faint halo lingered around his body. Only after another 2 hours had passed did he finally stop. At this time, the sky was already bright, and the aura on his body had also stabilized. He walked out of the room and faced the morning sun, breathing in and out, looking refreshed. Very quickly an hour passed. After an hour, he stopped breathing and said goodbye to Shui Yi, then walked out of the courtyard and walked around the Ascension sect. He had just stepped into the 7th level of the Zephyr realm, so he did not plan to immediately immerse himself in cultivation. He was going to relax a little. Quick! Use this last period of time to increase my strength. Strive to improve my strength in half a month. This time, I must enter the inner sect. In front, a few disciples were rushing towards the immortal Spirit Valley. In other places, there were also many disciples running towards the immortal Spirit Valley. Lin Tian's expression was slightly strange. It seemed that the disciples of the Ascension sect had become more hardworking. Moreover, the entire Ascension sect was much noisier than usual. Kid, which junior sister are you peeping at? No, you just came here not long ago. Which senior sister are you peeping at? A figure jumped over. Lin Tian did not even need to think to know who it was. Other than that pervert Ling Yun, who else would say such vulgar words? Did anything special happen in the Ascension sect recently? It seems to be a little different from the usual Ascension sect, he asked. Ling Yun hooked his arm around Lin Tian's neck. Hearing this, he was stunned. Then, he said, it's about the sect tournament. Sect tournament? Lin Tianyi was stunned. In the past, when he was in the Northern Flame Imperial Academy, there was a tournament. Did the Ascension sect have a similar tournament? Ling Yun nodded and said, in another half a month's time, there will be a big competition organized by the sect regularly. The promotion of outer sect disciples to inner sect disciples to successor disciples to core disciples, as well as the ranking battles between disciples of various levels will be organized by the sect in half a month's time. This big competition is held once a year, Ling Yun explained. The disciples of the Ascension Dao sect were divided into 4 levels from the lowest to the highest. They were the outer sect disciples, the inner sect disciples, the core disciples, and the core disciples. The rules for promotion were very simple and primitive. They were free to challenge. If an outer sect disciple wanted to become an inner sect disciple, they had to challenge any of the current inner sect disciples. If they won, they would be promoted to inner sect disciple. As for the defeated inner sect disciple, they would automatically be demoted to outer sect disciple and would not be allowed to challenge anyone for 3 months. Similarly, if an inner disciple wanted to become a true disciple, they would have to challenge any of the true disciples. If they won, they would become a true disciple. If they lost, they would become an inner disciple. If a true disciple wanted to become a core disciple, they would have to challenge any of the current core disciples. If they won, they would become a core disciple. In fact, the challenge can be carried out at any time. It doesn't have to be at the sect competition. It's just that the sect competition that is held once a year is the most lively and has the most challengers. It can be considered one of the most important events of the Ascension Dao sect every year. Moreover, the sect master and the various elders will personally attend the sect competition every year. This naturally causes many disciples of the Ascension Dao sect to be very active. They want to show off their strength in front of the sect master and the various elders. After all, if they can be recognized by an elder and be accepted as a disciple, there will be many benefits. Lingyun said. Lin Tian nodded. Suddenly, she was curious and asked, "Why don't you say that you were recognized by the sect master and were accepted as a disciple? No matter what, the sect master's status is much higher than the elders. Wouldn't there be more benefits if you were recognized by the sect master? The probability is infinitely close to zero, so it's automatically ignored." Lingyun shrugged and said, "However, speaking of which, our sect master is quite mysterious. Every time he appears, his face is covered by a hazy fog of light. Ordinary immortal realm experts can't see through it. No one in this generation of Ascension Dao sect disciples has seen the sect master's true appearance. Why is that?" Lin Tian was curious. "Who knows? How can we guess the thoughts of a big shot?" Lingyun spread out his hands and said, "In addition, the sect competition this time is very special. There's a very important matter that needs to be determined during this competition." "What is it?" "To determine the Holy Son of the Ascension Dao sect for this generation," Lingyun said seriously. "Oh." Lin Tian nodded and looked ahead. "Oh?" Lingyun stared. "That's it. What else?" "Brother, my dear brother! Do you really not understand what I'm trying to say? This generation's Holy Son can be said to be Gu Jianchen. You brat, you treated him so well a while ago. He will definitely remember you." Lingyun was a little speechless. He rolled his eyes and said, "Think about it. If that bastard really becomes the Holy Son of the Ascension Dao sect, will you still have a good life in the Ascension Dao sect?" Lin Tian didn't care at all. He looked at Lingyun and said with a smile, "Do I look like someone who's easy to bully?" "You don't." Lingyun shook his head. He felt that Lin Tian was a scammer. "Then it's fine." Lin Tian andao. It was fine if Gu Jianchen knew his place, but if he didn't, he could make him die a horrible death. Lingyun shrugged. Since Lin Tian was so calm, what else could he say? "By the way, do you want to challenge the core disciples this time?" Lin Tian asked casually. Although Lingyun usually looked a little frivolous, his strength was very strong, especially that sword Dao remarkable ability. He felt that it was not simple. Although Lingyun was only at the 9th heaven of the Zephyr realm, his combat strength should not be inferior to an ordinary 1st heaven of the connecting immortal realm expert. Challenging the last person of the core disciples, the chances of winning should be very high. "No, it's boring." Lingyun shook his head and hooked his arm around Lin Tian's neck. "What about you? Why don't you challenge the core disciples? The sect competition has no limit to the level of challenges. Outer sect disciples can challenge core disciples directly." Lin Tian shook his head. "Same boring." Lingyun thought for a moment and said, "Then let's challenge the elite disciples. In the future, the two of us will become elite disciples together and stand shoulder to shoulder. We'll be known as the twin geniuses of the Ascension Dao sect." As he spoke, this fellow looked up into the sky with an intoxicated expression. Lin Tian. Finally, he nodded. Originally, he did not intend to participate in the challenge. What he pursued was powerful strength. It did not matter if he was only an outer sect disciple. However, since Lingyun had said so, he naturally would not refuse. "Who do you want to challenge?" "Let me introduce you to all the core disciples of the Ascension Dao sect," Lingyun said. Before the sect competition, usually, disciples who wanted to be promoted would collect information on the higher level disciples. For example, if an outer sect disciple wanted to be promoted to an inner sect disciple, he would collect information on all the inner sect disciples in advance and find the easiest person to defeat to challenge. Although Ling Yun knew that Lin Tian was very strong, there should not be any core disciples today. Someone was Lin Tian's opponent, but there was no harm in letting Lin Tian know more. No need, I already have a candidate. Lin Tian Andao. Already? Which core disciple do you want to challenge? Ling Yun was curious, but he quickly understood and could not help but laugh. That guy should be thinking of competing for the number 1 core disciple this time. Unfortunately, he has to return to the outer sect. Cultivation was always boring. In the following days, Lin Tian did not go to the Immortal Spirit Valley again. Instead, he cultivated in the house. Previously, when he went to the Immortal Spirit Valley, it was to stabilize his cultivation base at the peak of the 6th level of the Zephyr Realm, to stabilize his chi and blood, so that he could better break through to the 7th level of the Zephyr Realm. Now that he had reached the 7th level of the Zephyr Realm, it was meaningless to go to the Immortal Spirit Valley again. Of course, Shui Yi did not go. Lin Tian gave Shui Yi 2 fist-sized Lingjing fruits in the stone ring. For Shui Yi's current cultivation, 2 fist-sized Lingjing fruits were enough to raise his cultivation by 3 small realms. At the same time, he gave the last fruit to the young girl and told her to eat it after reaching the spiritual sea realm. Time passed day by day. Lin Tianyi guided Shui Yi's cultivation while he consolidated and refined his cultivation. At the same time, he comprehended the Dragon Burial Scripture. As time passed and he cultivated every day, his mastery of the Dragon Burial Scripture improved greatly. In the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. After half a month, the Ascension Dao sect was in an uproar. In the sect, many disciples were clenching their fists as if they were anticipating something and encouraging themselves. On this day, the martial arts practice field was full of people. More than 90% of the Ascension Dao sect's disciples were there. Because the martial arts practice field of the Ascension Dao sect was very big, there were heads everywhere. On the east side of the martial arts practice field, there was a high platform with a row of stone seats. Sect leader, great elder, and some other important figures of the sect will be watching the battle from that high platform, Ling Yun said. Lin Tian nodded and did not say anything. He and Ling Yun came to the martial arts practice field and stood in a corner. This time, I must enter the inner sect. I must! I must! True teachings! I can do it! Around them, many Ascension Dao sect's disciples were whispering. Many of their eyes were shining. The huge martial arts practice field was very noisy. In the blink of an eye, more than an hour had passed. Suddenly, the noisy martial arts practice field quietened down. On the high platform on the east side of the martial arts practice field, there were 3 figures. The person on the left was wearing a blue robe. He was the first ordinary elder of the Ascension Dao sect. On the right was an old man in a purple robe. His aura was as deep as the abyss. In the middle was a figure in a white robe. His face was covered by a faint fog. The person on the left is the first ordinary elder. He is called the Great Elder. You have seen him before. The person on the right is the reclusive elderly Danyan. He is Gu Jianqin's master. He is here to see Gu Jianqin become the saint, Ling Yun said. As for the person in the middle with a hazy fog, you should be able to guess without me saying. He is the sect leader of the Ascension Dao sect. Lin Tian glanced at the blue-robed Great Elder and the reclusive elderly Danyan. Then, his gaze landed on the Ascension Dao sect's sect leader. His eyes were shining. He wanted to see through the hazy fog on the Ascension Dao sect's sect leader's face. Unfortunately, it was useless. However, even so, he had a strange feeling in his heart. He frowned slightly and said, "There is a familiar aura. P.S. Dear brothers and sisters, please give me a few monthly votes. Awoo. Then I will try my best to write the 5th update." End of chapter. Chapter 565. Sensing a familiar aura, Lin Tian tried to recall but couldn't remember where he had sensed it before. Most importantly, this familiar aura was too weak and blurry. It gave him a vague feeling as though it was air. Although he could feel its existence, he couldn't grasp it no matter how hard he tried. This made Lin Tian frown as he stared at the stage. In front of him, the Ascension sect leader seemed to have sensed something. He tilted his head and looked over. His gaze landed on Lin Tian. Lin Tian was shocked. In a blur, he seemed to have seen the Ascension sect leader curl his lips and smile at him. "He knows me?" Lin Tian was shocked. On the stage, the Ascension sect leader turned his head and looked at the training field. At this moment, the grand competition of the sect had officially begun. A few ordinary elders were in charge and the disciples were in an uproar. Lin Tian frowned as he stared at the Ascension sect leader on the stage. His eyes shone brightly. He wanted to see through the hazy fog on the Ascension sect leader's face. However, no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't see through it. "If I had cultivated the illusionary eyes, I would be able to see clearly now," he muttered to himself. He was really curious about the Ascension sect leader. "Kid, what are you muttering about?" Lingyan's name was Lin Tian. Lin Tian came back to his senses and shook his head. "Nothing." "Oh yes, what's the specific process of the grand competition?" He looked in front of him. There were already a few disciples who had gone up to different arenas and were challenging some of the inner disciples. The first round is to challenge the inner disciples, the second round is to challenge the true disciples, the third round is to challenge the core disciples, the fourth round is to rank the outer disciples, the fifth round is to rank the inner disciples, the sixth round is to rank the true disciples, and the seventh round is to rank the core disciples. The seventh round is to challenge the core disciples. The seventh round is to challenge the core disciples. The seventh round is to challenge the core disciples. Ling Yun continued. Lin Tian nodded. The first 7 rounds were easy to understand. Moreover, the distribution was very reasonable. As for the successor of the saint, it was probably just another great battle between the core disciples. Boom! On the various arenas, pairs of disciples were competing against each other. Powerful energy fluctuations swept out in waves. This was the first round of the Inner Disciple Challenge. Of course, the challengers could only be outer disciples. "I challenge Inner Disciple Lu Yen! I challenge Inner Disciple Wan Yohao! I challenge Inner Court Disciple Mu Qin Hong! I challenge Inner Disciple He Ji! I challenge Inner Disciple Zhao Yixing!" Voices sounded one after another. "Those who are being challenged, step onto the stage," an elder in charge of the abbot said. A few figures walked out from the group of inner disciples. Their expressions were very ugly. The grand competition of the sect was fair and just. Once one was challenged, it meant that one's strength was very weak compared to other disciples of the same level. As such, how could the person who was challenged be happy? Soon after, the battle began. Tyrannical fluctuations spread out again. Lin Tian looked at the several outer sect disciples who had challenged him. They fought against their opponents, but in the end, none of them won. Inner disciples are all very strong. If an outer disciple wants to defeat an inner disciple, it is naturally not a simple matter, Ling Yun said. That's right. Lin Tian nodded his head. Among the outer sect disciples, many of them were cultivating diligently. They felt that they were constantly getting stronger, and were very confident. This was a good thing. However, to be able to become an inner court disciple, which one of them was a simple person, it was indeed very difficult to defeat them successfully. Of course, it was difficult. However, there were still some people who succeeded every year and were promoted from outer sect disciple to inner sect disciple. It was extremely glorious. As for the inner sect disciples who were defeated, they could only dejectedly return from inner sect disciple to outer sect disciple. Outer sect disciple Si Yuanwu has failed his challenge. He is not allowed to issue any challenges in any form for the next 3 months. Outer sect disciple Mao Xingqing has failed his challenge. He is not allowed to issue any challenges in any form for the next 3 months. Outer sect disciple Z has failed his challenge. He is not allowed to issue any challenges in any form for the next 3 months. Outer sect disciple Gong Xiangyang has failed his challenge. He is not allowed to issue any challenges in any form for the next 3 months. Outer sect disciple Hung Feibai has succeeded his challenge. He is promoted to inner sect disciple. Inner sect disciple who has failed his challenge will be returned to outer sect disciple. He is not allowed to issue any challenges in any form for the next 3 months. An elder announced the results of each challenge. Instantly, the surrounding crowd was in an uproar again. The first round of challenges continued. Close to 100 rings were carried out at the same time. Very quickly, an hour had passed. The first round of the sect grand competition every year is the most time-consuming round. When it comes to the next few rounds, the number of challengers will gradually decrease. After all, in the last few rounds, the people who are challenged will be direct disciples and core disciples. As their strength gets stronger, the number of people who have the ability to issue challenges will naturally decrease. The time spent will also decrease, Lingyun said. Lin Tian nodded. This logic was naturally very easy to understand. Very quickly, the number of challengers on the martial arts practice field decreased. Only after another 15 minutes did the first round of the competition end. The second round, challenge the direct disciples, an elder shouted. After the second round began, there were naturally people who issued challenges. Of course, the number of challengers was much less than the first round. I challenge Jing Yong. I challenge Yu Xinghua. I challenge Su Yu. A few voices rang out as they ascended the rings one by one. Almost at the same time, among the direct disciples, a few cold snorts rang out. The people who were called did not even wait for the elder in charge to speak. They flashed to the rings where their challengers were at. Immediately, without even waiting for the elder to speak, the battle began. In just a few dozen breaths, all the challengers who issued challenges were defeated. This undoubtedly caused many people to inhale a breath of cold air. Lingyun shook his head and said to Lin Tiandao, "All the direct disciples are in the flight realm. How can they be so easy to challenge? Inner sect disciple Zhou Xueming has failed his challenge. He is not allowed to issue any challenges in any form within 3 months. Inner sect disciple Shi has failed his challenge. He is not allowed to issue any challenges in any form within 3 months. Inner sect disciple Chan Yueza has failed his challenge. He is not allowed to issue any challenges in any form within 3 months." The elder in charge announced the results of the battle. For a moment, everyone shook their heads and sighed. Zhou Xueming, Shi, Chan Yueza. These 3 people are the top 3 among the inner disciples. Moreover, the direct disciples who challenged them are the weakest among the direct disciples. Yet they all failed. This generation of direct disciples is very strong. I can see it. Many people whispered. For a moment, the martial arts practice field was not as noisy as before. Is there anyone else who wants to challenge? The elder in charge asked. Facing this elder, no one in the martial arts practice field dared to step forward. What a joke. The 3 strongest direct disciples had all failed their challenge. Who would still challenge? It was purely looking for trouble. In the direct disciples area, many people sneered. Were they so easy to challenge? Luo Changhen stood at the front of the group of direct disciples and coldly swept his gaze over Lingyun. There should be no one participating in the second round of direct disciple competition. He also admitted that he did not have the strength to challenge the core disciples. Now, he could only wait for the direct disciple ranking battle. Staring at Lingyun, a sinister light flickered in his eyes. Before this, Lingyun had mocked him by calling him a dog. This time around, he wanted to obtain first place in the core disciple ranking competition and ruthlessly humiliate Lingyun. Lingyun naturally noticed Luo Changhen's gaze. Seeing the sinister look in the other party's eyes, Lingyun curled his lips in disdain. It seems that you are also a troublemaker. Lin Tianao. Lingyun was unhappy. Kid, where's your conscience? I spoke up for you before. I know. Lin Tianao said. Speaking of which, when I first arrived at the Ascension sect, I heard some people in the Immortal Spirit Valley say that you are vaguely the first direct disciple. Then, some time ago, Luo Changhen said that not long later the first direct disciple would be his. At that time, he was interrupted by Gu Jianchen. However, it seemed that he wanted to say that he would be the first direct disciple. I was a little confused when I heard that. You have not confirmed the first direct disciple? He was indeed a little curious. The first direct disciple was not confirmed. Ling Yun curled his lips and said, Yes, that person is at the peak of the Zephyr 9th layer and is very strong. However, about 2 months before you came to the Ascension sect, you accidentally lost your life outside. Therefore, the first place was naturally gone. Coincidentally, you were previously ranked second, so people said that you are vaguely the first direct disciple. Then, what was Luo Changhen's rank before? Rank third, Ling Yun said. Excluding others, his battle strength is not much worse than mine. Back then, I only lost in one move. Lin Tian now nodded. In that case, Luo Changhen was indeed not weak. It seems that he wants to compete with you for the first place this time, Lin Tian now said. Who cares about him? What's the use of being first? There is no beautiful little junior sister as a reward. It is just a ranking. At most, the sect will reward me with some baodan and precious weapons. I don't care. Ling Yun curled his lips and said. However, that stupid bird's eyes revealed a hint of viciousness when he looked at me. It is a little unpleasant. Lin Tianyi smiled and said. It doesn't matter. Very soon, he will be even more unhappy. I will leave it to you. Don't be polite, just beat him up and send him flying, Ling Yun said. Previously, he asked Lin Tian to challenge the core disciples. Lin Tian said that it was not interesting. Then, he asked Lin Tian to challenge the direct disciples. Lin Tian agreed and said that he already had a candidate to challenge. At that time, he was just a little stunned and understood who Lin Tian wanted to challenge. Of course, it was Luo Changhen, who was beside Gu Jianchen. Therefore, when Lin Tian said that Luo Changhen would be even more unhappy, he knew very well what Lin Tian meant. He was not surprised or puzzled at all because he knew what Lin Tian wanted to do. Is there anyone else who wants to challenge? In front, the elder in charge of the grand competition spoke again. After waiting for 2 breaths, he shook his head and said, Now the third wait. A voice was heard. Lin Tian rose into the air and casually landed on an arena. Outer disciple Lin Tian challenges Luo Changhen. P.S. 5th update. I hope you enjoy watching. I will continue tomorrow. Also, thank you to Lemon Chichi for your support of 10,000. Thank you. Chapter 566. Facing everyone, Lin Tian stepped onto an arena, appearing very calm. On the other hand, the rest of the people in the arena were shocked. Outer disciple Lin Tian? It's Lin Tian who killed Yu Qianling. He wants to challenge Luo Changhen? Many people were shocked. Lin Tian was undoubtedly the most interesting person in the Ascension Dao sect recently. He killed Yu Qianling's brother not long after he came to the Ascension Dao sect. Then, he killed Yu Qianling without hesitation. Not long ago, he even beat up the number 1 core disciple, Gu Jianchen, in his own courtyard. Now, Lin Tian wanted to challenge Luo Changhen. He wanted to challenge a true disciple from the outer sect. In the distance, the Ascension Dao sect master stared at the arena. Under the hazy light, the corners of his mouth seemed to be curling up. Luo Changhen stood at the front of the true disciples. His expression was ugly. Lin Tian wanted to challenge him. He was one of the top few true disciples, Lin Tian. Lin Tian wanted to challenge him as an outer disciple. Moreover, he had seen how terrifying Lin Tian was some time ago. He had even injured Gu Jianchen. Even though he relied on the killing formation, he was still wary of Lin Tian. Now that he was challenged by Lin Tian, he was both angry and fearful. True disciple, Luo Changhen, go up to the arena. The elder's voice sounded. Luo Changhen had no choice. He gritted his teeth and went up to the arena where Lin Tian was. He clenched his fists and stared at Lin Tian. "Begin," the elder said. As soon as the elder finished speaking, Ling Yun said from the crowd, "Little Luo Luo, go play in the outer sect." Ling Yun stared at Luo Changhen and waved goodbye. Luo Changhen's face turned cold. He looked at Ling Yun viciously and activated his true origin. He took out a sword and stared at Lin Tian now. "You killed Yu Qianling and forced young Master Gu away. You only relied on the killing formation. Clang! The sound of the sword rang out. Lin Tian didn't say a word. A long sword appeared in his hand, and he slashed out a large sword of light. Almost in the blink of an eye, the sword of light closed in, shattering Luo Changhen's supreme treasure and landing on his chest. "Pooh!" Luo Changhen coughed out a mouthful of blood as he was sent flying. With a loud thud, he landed below the stage. Instantly, the crowd's expression changed. That Luo Changhen, the Nine Heavens levitating technique, was actually knocked off the stage with a single strike? "Oh my God!" someone gasped. In this place, everyone was shocked, their eyes wide open. These people knew that Lin Tian was very terrifying and could not be measured by the combat strength of an outer disciple, but they did not expect him to be so strong that he could send Luo Changhen flying with just one sword. In the true disciple area, the other true disciples felt a chill down their spines. They were all glad that Lin Tian did not challenge them. For a time, the elder in charge of the grand competition was shocked. It was not until 3 breaths later that he regained his senses and announced loudly, "Outer disciple Lin Tian has succeeded in the challenge and is promoted to a true disciple. True disciple Luo Changhen has been defeated and will return to the outer sect. Within 3 months, he is not allowed to issue any challenges in any form." Below the stage, Luo Changhen's clothes were stained with blood, and his mouth was also bleeding. He was in a sorry state, and his face was extremely pale. Just a moment ago, he wanted to show off his prowess in the ranking battle of the true disciples and win first place to humiliate Ling Yun. However, in the blink of an eye, he was challenged by Lin Tian and was knocked off the stage. Now, he was the most ordinary and lowest outer disciple. Even though he could rely on his own strength to become a true disciple again 3 months from now, these 3 months would undoubtedly cause him to become the laughingstock of the Ascension Dao sect. The number 3 true disciple had been directly reduced to an outer court disciple. "Little Luo Luo, calm down. You must not be anxious. It's only 3 months of being an outer court disciple. Just take it as reliving the path you've taken. Remember, calm down, calm down. You must not be anxious, or you'll vomit blood." Ling Yun's voice sounded out at the right time. "You!" Luo Changhen's face was livid, while his body trembled. In the next moment, he was anxious, and he spat out a mouthful of blood essence before fainting. "Alas, look, I've already reminded you. How could you be so careless? How could you be so careless?" Ling Yun sighed. All the Ascension sect disciples in the surroundings felt a chill run down their spines, and they said in their hearts, "This fellow is really evil. He absolutely did it on purpose." Even the elder in charge of the grand competition was slightly speechless, and he ordered someone to carry Luo Changhen away to treat his injuries. Lin Tian walked down from the arena and arrived by Ling Yun's side. "Does it feel good?" he asked. "I sent him flying with a sword. It feels good." Ling Yun laughed and said, "However, it's a pity that bastard Gu Jianchen didn't come. If he saw his follower being sent flying with a sword, that bastard's expression would definitely be extremely good." Lin Tian looked towards the core disciples area. Gu Jianchen was indeed not there, which made him feel a little strange. The next round of the grand competition was to challenge the core disciples, and as a core disciple, Gu Jianchen should have arrived early. As if he knew what Lin Tian was thinking, Ling Yun said, "That bastard is extremely arrogant and conceited. He must have thought that no one would dare to challenge him, so he came late to show off his nobility and strength. However, in reality, no one would dare to challenge him. In terms of true combat strength, he is indeed the strongest in the Ascension sect. No one would be foolish enough to seek trouble. As he spoke, Ling Yun suddenly tilted his head and pouted. I was just talking about that bastard, and he's here. Lin Tian raised his head and looked in that direction. He saw a figure descending from the sky in the core disciples area. It was Gu Jianchen. Compared to before, Gu Jianchen had changed into a purple gold robe today, which gave him a sense of majesty. A purple gold robe. Does he think that he will definitely become the holy son of the Ascension sect in the future? Ling Yun narrowed his eyes. Idiot. Lin Tian laughed. In the core disciples area, Gu Jianchen looked towards Lin Tian with a cold gaze. He knew that Lin Tianyi had sent Luo Changhen off the stage with a sword, causing Luo Changhen to fall from the third direct disciple to the lowest outer disciple. He stared at Lin Tian with a murderous gaze. Luo Changhen was his follower, and Lin Tian had slapped him in the face again. As if he felt the murderous intent from Gu Jianchen, Lin Tian raised his head and looked over. His lips moved slightly. Idiot trash. He did not make a sound and only moved his lips. However, Gu Jianchen could undoubtedly read his lips. Suddenly, Gu Jianchen's face became even gloomier. His eyes were filled with gloom as a terrifying chill spread out. This chill was so terrifying that it caused many disciples to tremble. Someone stared at Gu Jianchen before following Gu Jianchen's gaze and landing on Lin Tian. Lin Tian sent Luo Changhen off the stage with a sword. Luo Changhen is Gu Jianchen's follower. This is equivalent to indirectly slapping Gu Jianchen's face. Gu Jianchen is obviously angry. Indirectly slapping his face? Previously, he had already slapped his face directly, and was severely injured. What's an indirect slap to his face? At that time, he seemed to have relied on the power of the killing formation. In terms of true strength, Lin Tian should be no match for Gu Jianchen. It doesn't matter what he relied on. What's important is that he has indeed slapped Gu Jianchen's face. Speaking of which, how can Lin Tian have such a terrifying killing formation? Is he a powerful array manipulator? Many disciples were discussing. On the high platform, the reclusive elder followed Gu Jianchen's gaze and looked at Lin Tian. His eyes narrowed slightly. Beside him, the Ascension sect master looked very calm and did not have any reaction. However, in the next moment, the Ascension sect master suddenly raised his head and looked outside the Ascension sect. Boom! Outside the Ascension sect, a powerful divine power fluctuation surged as a figure stepped through the void and walked over. The faceless immortal sect is here to pay a visit to the Ascension sect. May I? The sound wave covered the sky and the earth. It immediately reverberated throughout the Ascension Dao sect's martial arts practice field. Moreover, even though the person who spoke was asking if it was possible, he did not stop at all. In the blink of an eye, 3 figures walked into the Ascension Dao sect. Instantly, everyone in the Ascension sect martial arts practice field had a change of expression. The faceless immortal sect was here to pay a visit to the Ascension sect? That was one of the 6 major immortal sects. For a moment, everyone was stunned. What are they doing? Ling Yun was surprised. The 6 major immortal sects were far more powerful than the 12 Dao sects. As one of the 6 major immortal sects, the faceless immortal sect was here to pay a visit to the Ascension sect? Lin Tian also had a strange expression as he looked up at the 3 people in the sky. Then, his eyes narrowed. So powerful! These 3 people all had powerful auras. They seemed to be at the peak of the connecting immortal realm, especially the middle-aged man in the middle. Although he had a faint smile on his face, he gave people a feeling that he could swallow mountains and rivers. There was also a hint of coldness. The coldness on Gu Jianchen's body dissipated as he looked at the sky with a frown. In the distance, on the high platform, the blue-robed elder and the reclusive elder also frowned slightly and stood up. In front of them, the 3 people walked over and went directly to the high platform. The middle-aged man in the middle said, I happened to pass by this place and heard that the Ascension sect, which was once the leader of the 12 Dao sects, is holding a sect competition. Moreover, a saint will be chosen, so I couldn't help but come and take a look. Fellow Ascension Sect Master, you won't blame me, right? It is an honor for the Sect Master of the Formless Immortal Sect to come to my Ascension Sect as a guest. How would I dare to blame you? The Ascension Sect Master's face was still hazy as he looked at the middle-aged man and said, However, my Ascension Sect is small and can't compare to the Formless Immortal Sect. Today, the Formless Sect Master has personally come to the Ascension Sect. Aren't you afraid that it will damage your status? What? It's the Sect Master of the Formless Immortal Sect? The surrounding crowd was shocked. The Formless Immortal Sect's visit to the Ascension Dao Sect had already shocked everyone. Now, hearing the words of the Ascension Sect Master, the disciples of the Ascension Dao Sect were even more shocked. Among the 3 people who came, there was actually the Master of the Formless Immortal Sect. Even Lin Tian frowned. The Master of the Formless Immortal Sect had actually come personally? On the high platform, the Formless Sect Master smiled faintly. Since fellow Ascension Sect Master is honored, there is no need to consider anything else. Just accept this honor. With that, the Formless Sect Master opened his mouth again and said with narrowed eyes, On the other hand, fellow Ascension Sect Master, my Formless Immortal Sect has come to visit the Ascension Dao Sect. As the Sect Master, it's not appropriate for you to only use your divine sense to welcome us, right? Chapter 567. Lin Tian was shocked when he heard that. The Ascension Sect Master on the high platform was just a divine consciousness incarnation? He naturally knew about the divine consciousness incarnation. When he was in the first heaven, the Violet Fairy had used such a technique. When he was in the second heaven, the Sun Physique had also used the divine consciousness incarnation to kill him. This kind of divine consciousness incarnation mainly relied on comprehension. An ordinary immortal ascension cultivator would definitely not be able to cultivate it. He did not expect the Ascension Sect Master on the high platform to be just a divine consciousness incarnation. At the same time, not only him, but the other Ascension Dao Sect disciples were also shocked. This Sect Master, has he always appeared as a divine consciousness incarnation? I didn't feel it at all. Many people were shocked. In an instant, everyone on the training field was stunned as they looked at the Ascension Sect Master on the high platform. However, the blue-robed Great Elder and the secluded Elder were not surprised. It was as if they already knew about this. As expected of the phaseless Immortal Sect Master, you have good eyesight. The Ascension Sect Master smiled. In the next moment, the Ascension Sect Master on the high platform dissipated and turned into a ray of divine light that shot into the distance. Then, almost at the same time, a middle-aged man walked over from afar. His hair was a little messy. Senior Guardian? Lin Tian's expression changed. Beside him, Ling Yun's eyes widened in disbelief. The middle-aged man who walked over was the guardian of the Profound God Pavilion. He walked up the high platform step by step. His actions, coupled with the disappearance of the Ascension Sect Master, made many people's expressions change. This beggar-like guardian, could it be, how is that possible? No, impossible. Absolutely impossible. Many people were shocked. At the same time, the blue-robed Great Elder and the secluded Elder on the high platform bowed slightly to the middle-aged guardian. In the training field, all the elders of the Ascension Dao Sect bowed. Sect Master! In an instant, many elders called out in unison. Their brows were filled with respect. All of a sudden, everyone was shocked. It's really the Sect Master? Sect Master! Sect Master, why is he guarding the Profound God Pavilion? This. Many people couldn't help but tremble. Although many people had vaguely guessed the identity of the middle-aged man when he walked over, they were still shocked when they saw the group of elders salute him and call out the 2 words, Sect Master. It was actually the Sect Master. There were many disciples of the Ascension Dao Sect, and almost all of them had been to the Profound Divine Pavilion. Many of them had secretly mocked the middle-aged man guarding the pavilion and pointed at him behind his back. At this moment, all of them felt a chill run down their spines. The person who was once mocked for being dirty, smelly, and even a little sloppy, was actually the master of the Ascension Dao sect. Little brat, you have a discerning eye." Ling Yun's eyes widened as he recalled the first time Lin Tian went to the Yunshan Pavilion and saw a middle-aged man. Ling Yun suddenly felt that Lin Tian was too amazing. In other words, his luck was simply too good. Although Lin Tian had previously guessed the identity of the middle-aged man guarding the pavilion, he was still shocked when he heard the two words, "Sect Master," from the elders. He finally understood why he had felt a vague, familiar aura from the sect master when he first arrived at the martial arts practice field. That familiar aura actually came from the middle-aged man guarding the pavilion. The middle-aged man guarding the pavilion was the sect master of the Ascension Dao sect. At the same time, he also finally understood why the great elder stood out to stop Yu Qianling when he went to his residence to find trouble with him. He even said that it was the sect master's order. It turned out that the middle-aged man guarding the pavilion was the sect master of the Ascension Dao sect. "Greetings, sect master! Greetings, sect master! Greetings, sect master!" Waves of voices rang out. On the huge martial arts practice field, all of the disciples of the Ascension Dao sect paid their respects. Lin Tian and Ling Yun were naturally no exception. They bowed seriously and paid their respects. "Rise." The sect master of the Ascension Dao sect raised his hands slightly and walked up the high platform step by step. He stood in front of sect master Wu Xiang and stared at him indifferently. For a moment, the surroundings seemed to be very quiet. There was complete silence. Sect master Wu Xiang wore a purple robe and his build was similar to the sect master of the Ascension Dao sect. He sized up the sect master of the Ascension Dao sect and said with a smile, "Fellow sect master of the Ascension Dao sect, as the sect master of the Ascension Dao sect, your attire doesn't seem very dignified. You and I are both cultivators. Why are you so bothered? Sect master Wu Xiang, since you want to watch the grand competition of the Ascension Dao sect, please take a seat," the sect master of the Ascension Dao sect said indifferently. As he spoke, the sect master of the Ascension Dao sect sat down on the high platform. A dim light flashed across sect master Wu Xiang's eyes. He then smiled and sat down beside the sect master of the Ascension Dao sect. "Continue," the sect master of the Ascension Dao sect said. In the martial arts practice field, the elder in charge of the grand competition bowed and nodded. He then announced the start of the third round of the grand competition. The third round of the grand competition was to challenge the core disciples. Amongst the successor disciples, everyone looked at each other and shook their heads. No one thought that they had the strength to challenge a core disciple, let alone an inner disciple or an outer disciple. No one would dare to challenge them. Moreover, at this time, many people were intentionally or unintentionally glancing towards the high platform. This was because the Ascension sect master that had appeared before was actually just a wisp of divine sense. Now, his true body was sitting there, and it was actually the middle-aged man who was guarding the pavilion. Furthermore, at this time, beside the Ascension sect master sat the sect master of the Formless Immortal sect. Lin Tian frowned. He felt that the arrival of the Formless Immortal sect was a little strange, and the attitude of the Ascension sect master was also very strange. "What's going on?" he whispered to himself. He did not believe that the Formless Immortal sect and the others had really coincidentally passed by the Ascension Dao sect, and coincidentally discovered that the Ascension Dao sect was holding a sect competition to choose the Holy Son of this generation. That was why they had entered the Ascension Dao sect to take a look. Just think about it, would the master of the Formless Immortal sect just happen to pass by the Ascension sect at this time? Even if he really passed by outside, with the status of the Formless Immortal sect and the status of the sect master of the Formless Immortal sect, would he care about the Ascension Dao sect? "Kid, you also feel that it's strange?" Ling Yun whispered. "It's something that anyone can sense, right?" Lin Tian was speechless. Ling Yun nodded, glanced at the high platform, and said, "I feel that the senior guarding the pavilion, cough cough, I'm wrong. I feel that the sect master seems to know the master of the Formless Immortal sect, and his attitude towards the master of the Formless Immortal sect is a little strange." At this moment, a voice sounded out from the front. The elder in charge of the grand competition announced the start of the fourth round of the grand competition. The fourth round of the grand competition, the outer court disciple ranking battle. Let's watch the sect competition first. Let's not care about anything else, Lin Tian said. At this time, he didn't think about the matter of the formless immortal sect coming here, and there was no point. Ling Yun nodded. Looking at the outer court disciples who had ascended the stage to participate in the ranking battle, he couldn't help but laugh softly. Sad little Luo Luo, not only did he fall from the third true disciple to an outer court disciple, he even fainted now, and can't even participate in the ranking battle. He will definitely be ranked at the bottom of the outer court disciples. Uncle Ling really feels sorry for him. So, you purposely made him faint not only to vent your anger at that time and embarrass him, but also so that he wouldn't be able to participate in the ranking battle of the outer court disciples in the future, and thus be ranked at the bottom of the outer court disciples. Lin Tian glanced at this perverted thief. Ling Yun had a bashful look on his face. Look at what you're saying. Is Uncle Ling such a scheming person? Yes. Lin Tian Andao. In front of him, waves of powerful true essence fluctuations came from the martial arts practice field's arena area. The outer court disciple ranking battle had officially begun. There were many outer court disciples, and they were the ones with the most disciples in the Ascension Dao school. As a result, the outer court disciple ranking battle took a lot of time, and it took more than 2 hours to finish. The abbot in charge of the pavilion announced the outer court disciple ranking loudly. Because Luo Changhen had fainted and could not fight, he was ranked at the bottom of the outer court disciple list. This, the third true disciple, Luo Changhen, is now. He has become the last outer court disciple. Among the outer court disciples, he is also at the bottom. What a tragedy. When Luo Changhen wakes up and finds out about this news, he will probably vomit blood and faint on the spot. Many people whispered. Falling from the third true disciple to an outer court disciple was already a shameful thing, and it had never happened before in the history of the Ascension Dao school. Now, Luo Changhen had not only fallen from the third true disciple to an outer court disciple, but he had also fallen to the bottom of the outer court disciple list, causing everyone to be flabbergasted. Many people thought about it and knew that Luo Changhen was destined to become the laughingstock of the Ascension Dao school, and it was even possible that the next generation of disciples of the Ascension Dao school would know about it. Thinking about it, this was really a sad thing because it was too embarrassing. Sigh, I feel sorry for little Luo Luo. Ling Yun stared at the group of outer court disciples with a serious expression. Actually, little Luo Luo is also a person with temperament. She just accidentally fainted after falling from the arena. If not, tell me honestly, wouldn't all of your rankings be pushed back by 1 place? With little Luo's strength, would she definitely be ranked first in the outer court? He said it with a serious face. He kept saying little Luo and said first in the outer sect very loudly. Everyone. The group of outer court disciples cursed in their hearts, and they couldn't help but wipe the cold sweat on their foreheads. This person was really too ruthless, saying such words at this time. Wasn't it obvious that he was making Luo Changhen even more embarrassed? Falling from the third direct disciple to the outer court disciple, and then taking the first place in the outer court, was this a compliment? If it was a compliment, then something was wrong. In the martial arts arena, the group of elders was also speechless, and they couldn't help but think in their hearts, how did Luo Changhen provoke this person? Trash, you're courting death! A chill spread out. In the court disciple area, Gu Jianchen suddenly stood up, and his eyes were like knives as he stared at Ling Yun. Luo Changhen was his follower, and he didn't care about Luo Changhen's face, but he cared about his own face. As his follower, Luo Changhen had fallen to the bottom of the outer court disciples, and being ridiculed like this was equivalent to slapping his face. Facing this type of chilliness, many people were shocked, feeling a chill run down their backs. Almost at the same time, another voice sounded beside Ling Yun. Idiot trash, don't always bark at people like a dog, so noisy, Lin Tianling said. P.S. The first place of the monthly votes list has been overtaken, But the gap isn't big, dear. Can we overtake it? Sob, sob, rolling on the ground begging for monthly votes. Thank you, big guy. End of chapter. Chapter 568. Hearing Lin Tian's words, many disciples in the martial arts practice field were shocked. Many of them couldn't help but shrink their necks. Lin Tian actually called the number 1 core disciple an idiot and trash. Gu Jianchen is an idiot? Trash? This ruthless person really dares to say that. This? Someone muttered. In this place, no one dared to think so. Not only these people, but even the elder in charge of the sect grand competition was astonished. What did you say? Gu Jianchen roared. An even more shocking chill spread out. Gu Jianchen's eyes became cold as he stared in Lin Tian's direction. I didn't know you before, but you asked me to go to the martial arts practice field for no reason. You even thought that I had to go. If I didn't go, then I would be bold and impudent. You came to find trouble with me. If you're not an idiot, then what are you? What's even more ridiculous is that you came aggressively, but in the blink of an eye, you were sent flying by me. You coughed up blood and were in a sorry state. If you're not trash, then what are you? Moreover, as a core disciple, you should have arrived at the sect grand competition as soon as possible. But what about you? You came late and changed into a dazzling golden robe. You thought that you would definitely become the chosen saint today, so you deliberately changed into a grand attire in advance to show that you're nobler than the other disciples? If you're not an idiot, then what are you? Lin Tian's words were merciless. Every word hit the heart. He said coldly, I said that you're an idiot and trash. Am I wrong? His voice wasn't loud, but in an instant, everyone in the martial arts practice field widened their eyes. Many people naturally knew that not long ago, Gu Jianchen went to find trouble with Lin Tian and was sent flying by Lin Tian. At this moment, Lin Tian brought up this matter in front of everyone, causing their hearts to tremble. Many people thought that Lin Tian was right. Gu Jianchen had charged over aggressively, but in the end, he had been sent flying. It was really embarrassing. At this moment, many people stared at Gu Jianchen's golden robes and recalled Lin Tian's words. They immediately felt that the golden robes were too dazzling. Gu Jianchen was going to become the chosen son today, so he deliberately put on his best clothes and came late to show off his nobility. This was too childish and idiotic. At this moment, all the disciples of the Ascension sect looked at Gu Jianchen with rather strange expressions. On the high platform, the Ascension Gate Master squinted his eyes slightly. His expression was indiscernible. The reclusive elder, Li Danyan, glanced at Lin Tian before looking at his disciple, Gu Jianchen. He did not make any reaction. On the other hand, a gleam of light flashed through the eyes of the sect master beside the Ascension Gate Master. His gaze landed on Gu Jianchen, who was standing at the front of the core disciple area. He said, Fellow Ascension Gate Master, from the discussions of some disciples of the Ascension Gate, this young man is called Gu Jianchen, right? Does this Gu Jianchen have absolute confidence in becoming the chosen son of the Ascension Gate today? So what if he does? Said the Ascension Gate Master. This Gu Jianchen, from the chilling intent he displayed earlier, his strength is not simple. He's very powerful, said the sect master. Then, he looked in the direction of Lin Tian and squinted his eyes. As for this young man, he's rather interesting. The Ascension Gate Master looked in the direction of Lin Tian before retracting his gaze. He appeared extremely indifferent. He is rather interesting. The sect master of the formless sect narrowed his eyes slightly and said, It looks like the sect master of the Ascension Gate seems to be paying more attention to this young man than Gu Jianchen, who has absolute confidence in becoming the saint of the Ascension Gate. This is rather curious. Compared to sect master Wu Xiang coming all the way to my feather transformation Dao sect, this is nothing, said the Ascension Gate Master. Fellow Ascension Gate Master, you don't seem to welcome us. I've already said that I'm just passing by and have come to take a look. The formless sect master smiled. Then let's just call it a coincidence, said the Ascension Gate Master. As the two of them conversed, they stared at the training ground from beginning to end. They did not even glance at each other. In the training ground, Gu Jianxin's expression was extremely sinister. The chilling intent he gave off was even more shocking. Lin Tian, you're just relying on the killing formation. What's the big deal? I can crush you to death with a single finger with my own strength, yelled Gu Jianxin. TSK. Beside Lin Tian, Ling Yun mocked. If that's the case, you're just 10 years older than my brother and have cultivated for 10 more years. If he had 10 more years, what would you be? He could kill you with a single breath. Ling Yun knew that Lin Tian was only close to 19 years old, while Gu Jianxin was almost 29 years old. When everyone heard Ling Yun's words, they looked at Lin Tian with even more shock. They only knew that Lin Tian was terrifying, but they did not know Lin Tian's true age. Now that they knew from Ling Yun that Lin Tian was around 10 years younger than Gu Jianxin, they could not help but gasp. To be so terrifying at such a young age, he could be called a world-defying monster. Strength is strength. What does age have to do with it? Yelled Gu Jianxin. Idiot, if you say that, my brother can send you flying. What does that have to do with the killing formation? Ling Yun mocked. After spending so much time with Lin Tian, not only had Ling Yun become bolder, but his words had also become sharper. For a moment, Gu Jianxin could not find the words to refute. Staring at Ling Yun and Lin Tian, violent true yuan intertwined outside of his body. A chilling sword intent spread out, causing the surrounding space to distort slightly. It was extremely frightening. At this moment, the entire training ground could feel the threatening sword chi. It was extremely powerful and terrifying. Lin Tian sneered in his heart and ignored Gu Jianxin. Instead, he looked at the elder in charge of the intersect tournament and bowed slightly. My apologies, elder. Lin Tian and his friend have disrupted the intersect tournament. Please continue. The elder in charge of the intersect tournament nodded at Lin Tian. He thought to himself that Lin Tian was a good young man. Not only was he strong, but he was also very humble to his elders. On the other hand, Gu Jianxin was not so good. Although he was strong, he was a little overbearing. As a core disciple, not only did he come late to the intersect tournament, he even roared in front of everyone and released his chilling sword aura to envelop the entire training ground. His conduct was much worse than Lin Tian's. However, the elder did not say anything. He looked at the Ascension sect disciples and said, The 5th round, intersect ranking battle. As soon as the elder finished speaking, the group of intersect disciples immediately went up to the arena. Soon, a powerful wave of true yuan swept over. Lin Tian and Ling Yun looked at the intersect tournament. In the core disciple area, Gu Jianxin's eyes were vicious as he stared coldly at Lin Tian and Ling Yun. Especially when he stared at Lin Tian, his eyes were filled with a bone-chilling killing intent. It was terrifying. Lin Tian could obviously sense the killing intent. He glanced at Gu Jianxin and his eyes were filled with scorn and disdain. Idiot! Ling Yun chuckled. Ling Yun was only talking to Lin Tian. However, Gu Jianxin heard the two words and his eyes turned even colder. However, Lin Tian and Ling Yun ignored him. Fight! Someone in the arena shouted. The inner disciples' Jinyuan fluctuations were much stronger than the outer disciples' Jinyuan fluctuations. Soon half an hour passed. Because the number of inner court disciples was much fewer than outer court disciples, the time spent on the inner court ranking battle was naturally not long. After an hour, the inner court ranking battle ended. Some people's rankings were raised, and their faces were filled with joy. Some people retreated a lot, sighing slightly, and walked down the arena dejectedly. The 6th round is the direct disciple ranking battle. All direct disciples, enter the arena! The elder shouted. The ranking battle was very simple. It was a free-for-all battle, which could also be said to be a free-for-all battle. On a huge arena, whoever fell off the arena first, or who was the first to lose the ability to fight and fall to the ground, would be ranked at the back. Simple. Direct. Lin Tian and Ling Yun entered the arena. As the elder spoke again, the direct disciple ranking battle officially began. Boom! In an instant, the true yuan that was much stronger than the inner sect disciples surged. The sound of swords and sabers resounded in all directions. Lin Tian and Ling Yun stood together. The surroundings were empty. Little brat, look at you! No one dares to come and fight you, Ling Yun said. Scram! Lin Tian glanced at him. This arena could be considered to be very large. There were dozens of true inheritors competing on it. However, not a single one of them approached Lin Tian and Ling Yun. The true inheritors were all intentionally keeping their distance from the two of them. These direct disciples knew that the two of them were not simple. Ling Yun himself had the title of number 1 direct disciple, and Lin Tian, who had just entered the Ascension Dao sect, was even more terrifying. Killing the core disciple Yu Qianling, sending Gu Jianchen flying, and defeating the powerful direct disciple Luo Changhen with a single sword strike. These people were not stupid. Why would they run over to Lin Tian at this time to seek trouble? Clang! 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 The sword and saber collided, and the battle became even more intense. About an hour later, only Ling Yun and Lin Tian were left standing on the arena. Why do we feel like we're here to watch the show? Ling Yun said. Lin Tian was speechless. It really did seem like it. In the end, Ling Yun shrugged his shoulders and jumped off the stage. It was impossible for him to fight with Lin Tian to compete for the number 1 direct disciple position. Lin Tian also jumped off the stage and walked to the side with Ling Yun. The crowd stared at the two of them, stunned for a moment. Why didn't the two of them compete? How could they be considered first? Not only these people, even the elders in charge of this competition were somewhat helpless. They wanted to let Lin Tian and Ling Yun fight to determine who was the number 1, but they knew that the two of them had a good relationship, so it was unlikely for them to fight in the arena. In the end, they could only follow the rules of Ling Yun leaving the arena before Lin Tianyi. Even if Lin Tian was the number 1 direct disciple of this generation, Ling Yun would still be ranked second. In this regard, Lin Tian and Ling Yun naturally would not have any objections. The two of them were not people who would care about this kind of ranking. Moreover, the two of them had a very good relationship, so it didn't matter who was the first and who was the second. The 7th round, the core disciple ranking battle. All core disciples, go to the arena, the elder announced. P.S. Thank you for the sweet taste of home, ZZF 20133, and the two friends of Taoism for their support. Thank you for the last banana, Flying Eagle, Xian Lin, I love, and other friends for their enthusiastic support. Thank you everyone. Today's update is a little slower than yesterday. Everyone, please forgive me. It's mainly because in the past few days, I've been writing until the wee hours of the morning. I'm really tired. I went out and bought a few cans of Red Bull, but the effect is not very obvious. In short, sorry everyone, please forgive me. Chapter 569. In the 7th round, the core disciple ranking battle. As the elder's words fell, a cold sword intent surged. Gu Jianchen transformed into a divine sword and appeared on the arena in the blink of an eye. His powerful aura shocked everyone around him. This Gu Jianchen has become stronger again. It seems like he's about to enter the 3rd heaven of the immortal ascension realm, someone said. Ling Yun curled his lips and stared at Gu Jianchen with some mockery. Lin Tian stood at the side casually, and did not pay attention to Gu Jianchen. Instead, he looked at the high platform. At this time, the matter related to him was over. He began to think again. Why did the phaseless immortal sect come to the Ascension sect? Whoosh! 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 The sound of air breaking rang out. Soon, the other 8 core disciples also walked onto the arena. They all deliberately distanced themselves from Gu Jianchen. Begin! The elder shouted. Suddenly, a powerful divine power spread out and filled the entire arena. The core disciples were all in the immortal ascension realm. They were all very strong. Because Yu Qianling was killed, there were only 9 of them left. The other 8 did not approach Gu Jianchen. They all used their divine powers and secret techniques. The divine power surged and shook the void, causing the eyes of many Ascension sect disciples to light up. Compared to the ordinary disciples, the core disciples were indeed too strong. The 10th Sun Kai Tao is much stronger. He seems to have reached the peak of the first heaven of the immortal Ascension realm. The third Nye Qingping is actually suppressing the second Churchioji. Ying Rinyi was originally the sixth, but now, he seems to be stronger than the fifth Zhong Shuhua. Many people were surprised. The changes in the 9 core disciples surprised many people. Sun Kai Tao, who used to be the 10th core disciple, Ying Rinai, the 6th core disciple, and the 3rd core disciple, Nye Qingping, all had a huge change in their battle prowess. However, these 8 people did not approach Gu Jianqing to challenge him. They all kept a distance from him. Humph! In the center, Gu Jianqing snorted with a cold arrogance. His eyes were like swords as he glanced at Lin Tian and Ling Yun. Lin Tian was originally guessing why the phaseless immortal sect came to the Ascension sect. At this moment, he felt a cold gaze on him. He turned his head and saw Gu Jianqing's threatening eyes. This stupid thing! Ling Yun naturally sensed Gu Jianqing's cold gaze and scolded rudely. Lin Tian glanced at Gu Jianqing and ignored him. He continued to think about what he had been thinking about. What the hell is going on? He frowned and muttered to himself. When the formless immortal sect came to the emergence Dao sect, he keenly felt that something was wrong. On the stage, Gu Jianqing's eyes became even colder when he saw that Lin Tianji had only glanced at him and ignored him. Lin Tianji had actually ignored him. He stared at Lin Tian, his eyes flashing with killing intent and coldness. Boom! 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 Soon, 15 minutes passed. 15 minutes later, the core disciple ranking battle ended. Out of the 9 core disciples, the first was still Gu Jianqing. Shizhouji, who was originally second, was replaced by Nye Qingping and dropped to third. The fourth Dingao was replaced by Ying Rinyi and dropped to fifth, while the fifth Zhong Shuhua dropped to sixth. The 7th core disciple did not change, and the 8th He was replaced by Sun Kai Tao and dropped to 9th. The elder announced the result of the battle loudly. The new ranking of the core disciples: Gu Jianqing is first, Nye Qingping is second, Shizhouji is third, Ying Rinyi is fourth, Dingao is fifth, Zhong Shuhua is sixth, Zhao Yang is seventh, Sun Kai Tao is eighth, He is ninth. Such an ending surprised many people. Other than the 7th-ranked Zhao Yang and the 1st-ranked Gu Jianqing, the other core disciples' rankings had changed greatly. However, many disciples were only slightly surprised for a moment before they stopped thinking about it. This was because the 7th round had already ended and the final round was about to begin. The final round, the Holy Sun Succession Battle. Without a doubt, this final round of the Holy Sun Succession Battle was the core and key to today's large sect competition. Lin Tian naturally knew about this as well. At this moment, he stopped to think about the formless immortal sect. On the high platform, the Ascension sect master stood up with a faint radiance in his eyes. Let's not waste time on unnecessary words. It has been a long time since the previous generation. It is time for the sect to choose a suitable holy son. All disciples know the rules. Among the 9 core disciples, the holy son of this generation will be chosen from you. Now all of you will fight again. Boom! Just as the Ascension sect master finished speaking, a majestic divine energy spread out. Gu Jianqing released an extremely shocking sword aura. Gu Jianqing was still standing on the stage. At this moment, a terrifying sword aura spread out. It was chilling and soul-shaking. For a moment, many people around the stage were shocked by the sword aura. Many people could not help but retreat. Who dares to fight me? Gu Jianqing shouted. As soon as he finished speaking, an even more powerful sword aura surged out. It was as if a peerless killing sword had appeared in this training ground. This idiot is not much of a person, but he is indeed very strong, Ling Yun said. Lin Tian nodded. Lin Tian nodded. It was as Ling Yun had said. In terms of pure strength, Gu Jianqing was indeed very frightening. Let me! Sun Kai Tao, who was ranked 8th, walked out. He bowed slightly and said, If I can't win, I hope senior brother Gu can show mercy. Without a doubt, the status of the chosen saint was very high. Once one became a chosen saint, they would become the next sect master of the emergence gate. They would be able to reach the heavens in a single step. As a result, no one had challenged Gu Jianchen in the ranking battles earlier. If you want to fight with me, you have to be prepared to pay the price, Gu Jianchen said coldly. The sword aura bloomed in all directions, causing Sun Caitao's expression to change drastically. Although he tried his best to resist, he was still pierced through in a few breaths' time. He fell to the ground and retreated. However, Gu Jianchen did not stop there. The sword aura slashed out again. In the blink of an eye, Sun Caitao was heavily injured. His 4 limbs were pierced through. Blood dyed the entire stage. Then, he was kicked out of the stage. How ruthless! He has already won, but he's still. That's right. Many people whispered. Let me! Divine energy intertwined. Another core disciple stepped forward. It was Zhao Yang, who was currently ranked 7th. The position of the Holy Sun was too tempting. Even though Zhao Yang knew that he might not be Gu Jianchen's opponent, he still wanted to try. Whoever fights with me will have to pay the price, Gu Jianchen said coldly. Shocking divine might swept out in all directions. In this battle for the position of the Holy Sun, several other people stepped onto the arena one by one. Moreover, among these people, there were a few who had secretly hidden some of their strength, and revealed it in this battle for the position of the Holy Sun. This caused many disciples of the Ascension Gate to be shocked because they were indeed very powerful. Unfortunately, in the end, those who had hidden their strength were still defeated by Gu Jianchen. They were not Gu Jianchen's opponent. During this process, Gu Jianchen's method sent chills down the spines of many disciples of the Ascension sect. No matter who it was, as long as they did not fall off the stage, they would be severely injured by Gu Jianchen's attacks. Among them, the second-ranked Nie Chimping had admitted defeat, but his arms had still been chopped off. If it were not for the elder in charge of the sect's grand competition stopping Gu Jianchen in time, Nie Chimping might have been crippled or even killed on the stage. An hour later, the chosen saint's succession battle ended. Gu Jianchen stood in the ring, surrounded by a pool of blood. A bunch of trash wants to fight with me? You're courting death. The position of the Holy Sun is mine. Only I deserve it, Gu Jianchen said coldly. Many disciples of the Ascension sect frowned. Gu Jianchen's methods were too cruel. Moreover, his words were too harsh. All core disciples had the right to fight for the position of the Holy Sun. Since he had already won and there was no enmity between them, why did he have to humiliate others like this? The disciples of the Ascension sect were not surprised that Gu Jianchen could stand on the stage in the end and win against the others, because they had already guessed it. As expected, this idiot won in the end. It's really unpleasant to have someone like him as the Holy Sun of the Ascension sect. Ling Yun curled his lips. Lin Tian did not care. He only glanced at Gu Jianchen indifferently. At this moment, the surroundings of the martial arts practice field seemed to have quietened down. The elder in charge of this sect grand competition turned his head and looked at the stage. Ascension sect master, it seems to have ended. This Holy Sun is not bad. He has the dominance and sharpness of a cultivator. The formless sect master praised Gu Jianchen. The Ascension sect master's eyes flashed with a faint brilliance. He said with a different tone, "He is not bad." Standing up, the Ascension sect master looked at Gu Jianchen and smiled faintly. The successor battle has ended. This generation's Holy Sun will be, wait! On the stage, Gu Jianchen spoke and interrupted the Ascension sect master. Sect master, before I become the Holy Sun, there are some things that I would like to settle. As he spoke, Gu Jianchen glanced at Lin Tian and said coldly, This person rejected my invitation to a duel and is said to have the possibility of defeating me. Before I become the Holy Sun, I would like to ask for your permission to have a duel with him. I want to prove to everyone that I am the strongest in the Ascension sect. I am not someone some trash can compare to. Staring at Lin Tian, Gu Jianchen's eyes flashed with a sinister light. He wanted to cripple Lin Tian in front of everyone. This, many disciples of the Ascension sect frowned. They secretly thought that Gu Jianchen was too overbearing. In the beginning, someone had only said that Lin Tian had the possibility of defeating him, so he forced Lin Tianyi into a duel. Lin Tian did not go, so he went to Lin Tian's residence to denounce him. Although he was sent flying by Lin Tian's killing formation, he had asked for it. He could not blame Lin Tian. Many people knew very well that the conflict between Lin Tian and Gu Jianchen had always been Gu Jianchen's fault. Now, Gu Jianchen was about to become the holy son of the Ascension sect, yet he still acted like this. It was a little too much. On the stage, the Ascension sect master glanced at Lin Tian before looking at Gu Jianchen. He said, "You and Lin Tian are both the most outstanding disciples of my Ascension sect. I do not wish for there to be any more disputes between the two of you. Let bygones be bygones. There were conflicts between the two of you in the past, but fortunately, the two of you did not suffer any major losses. This is the best thing that can happen right now. I hope that the two of you can coexist amicably in the future and push my Ascension sect towards greater prosperity." Jianchen, listen to the sect master and inherit the position of Holy Son. The secluded elderly Danyan said. Gu Jianchen stared at the two great figures on the stage as he radiated with an even more powerful sword presence. "Sect Master, please allow this battle. The Ascension sect has me, Gu Jianchen, and no Lin Tian. I will definitely cripple him today." Staring at Lin Tian, the sword in Gu Jianchen's hand intertwined with cold sword light. The Ascension sect master and the secluded elderly Danyan frowned. Beside them, the sect master of the formless sect looked down with interest. It was also at this moment that Lin Tian soared into the air. "Sect master, my apologies. Lin Tian does not wish to cause trouble, but he does not like to be bullied and forced by others for no reason. I do not have pride, but I have pride." Lin Tian's steps were very steady as he stepped through the air. He arrived at the largest stage at the very center of the training ground. His cold gaze landed on Gu Jianchen. "Let's fight to the death. Come up." Chapter 570. Seeing Lin Tian's actions and hearing Lin Tian's words, the expressions of everyone in the training field changed. Gu Jianchen once again challenged Lin Tianyi, but Lin Tian was even more aggressive. He directly went to the largest arena in the center and said, "Let's fight to the death." All the disciples of the Ascension Gate were moved. Lin Tian accepted the challenge. A battle to the death. At the same time, many people's eyes lit up. They recalled Lin Tian's words at the beginning. "I have no pride, but I have a proud backbone." Many people repeated these words in their hearts. When they stared at Lin Tian, the light in their eyes became even brighter. It was not only the ordinary disciples. Even the group of elders were moved by Lin Tian's actions. "Perhaps he is not as strong as Gu Jianchen now, but he is many times more outstanding than Gu Jianchen," some elders muttered to themselves. On the high platform, the Ascension Gate sect leader looked at Lin Tian. His eyes flashed. "I have no pride, but I have a proud backbone." As he muttered these words, the Ascension Gate sect leader's eyes flashed. He had a good impression of Lin Tian. Now that he heard these words, his heart was moved. He hid his identity as the sect leader. Because of some matters, he had been guarding the Profound God Pavilion for decades. He did not disguise himself. Instead, he casually watched the disciples enter and leave. Among these disciples, some of them were cold and mocking him. Some of them were disdainful of him. None of them bowed to him seriously like Lin Tian. A simple bow might not be important, but such a small detail was enough for him to see a lot. Lin Tian was very polite. He would not look down on others. He knew how to respect others. Just like the first 4 words of these words, Lin Tian had no pride. Ever since the first time they met at the Profound God Pavilion, he had been paying close attention to Lin Tian. Later, when he found out that Lin Tian Sha had died because of Yu Shaoqing, he became even more satisfied with Lin Tian. Lin Tian, in order to protect his friends, he could do anything. He was a person who valued relationships. No matter what, he would not be bad. In the God-down city, a few disciples of the Golden Fire Dao school were arrogant and despotic. They wanted to kill Lin Tian and Ling Yun, but Lin Tian defeated them all by himself. Then, the genius successor of the dragon-seeking family, which was comparable to the 6 great immortal sects, stood out and asked Lin Tian to release them. How many people in this world would not be afraid of the descendant of the dragon-seeking family? At that time, if it were other people, they would definitely submit. However, Lin Tian didn't. Facing the descendant of the dragon-seeking family, he didn't back down. He killed the descendant of the dragon-seeking family without hesitation. This was just like the last 4 words of the 8 words, Lin Tian, have a proud and unyielding character. His actions were righteous, and he didn't fear anyone or any force. He stared at Lin Tian, and the light in his eyes became brighter and brighter. How many hot-blooded youths like him could be found in this world? He shifted his gaze and looked at Gu Jianchen. His eyes also flickered, but they seemed a little complicated. Jianchen, back down. Don't cause trouble anymore. You're already the saint of the Emergence Dao school. Take out the magnanimity of a saint, the reclusive elderly Danyan said. Gu Jianchen stared at Lin Tian, and his face was ashen. No! Master, he insulted me again and again. I can't tolerate him. I want him dead! He asked the Emergence Dao school's leader to allow him to fight with Lin Tianyi. He wanted to cripple Lin Tian in front of everyone, but he didn't expect Lin Tian to respond so strongly. He directly went to the center of the main arena and proposed a life-and-death battle to him. Lin Tian, how dare he propose a life-and-death battle to him? This made him extremely furious. He felt like his dignity had been challenged once again. With a boom, a sharp sword intent spread out. Gu Jianchen leapt up and landed on the main arena like a killing sword. Come down! The reclusive elderly Danyan yelled. Why do you have to do this? At this moment, the formless sex leader spoke up. He looked at the main arena with interest and said, Since the 2 of them want to fight, then let them fight. Isn't that good? Speaking of which, I'm quite optimistic about it. This holy son of yours is called Gu Jianchen. The other 2 people behind the formless sex leader were expressionless. They only stood to one side quietly like 2 marionettes. However, their auras were very powerful. The reclusive elderly Danyan frowned. He glanced at the formless sex leader before looking at the Emergence Dao school's leader beside him. Then let's fight. The Emergence Dao school's leader sighed. Whether it was Lin Tian or Gu Jianchen, the 2 of them wanted a life-and-death battle. This was their own decision. Even if he was the leader of the Emergence Dao school, he had no reason to interfere according to the rules. He stood on the high platform and looked at Lin Tian. His eyes flickered. Then, his gaze landed on Gu Jianchen. A complicated expression appeared on his face once again. The reclusive elderly Danyan could only nod and look at the blue-robed First Elder. The blue-robed First Elder soared into the air and walked down from the high platform. He arrived at the center of the arena and watched this life-and-death battle. Do you really want to fight? The blue-robed First Elder asked. According to the Emergence Dao school's leader and the reclusive elderly Danyan, they did not want the 2 of them to fight. Lin Tian was expressionless. His eyes were indifferent. He must die today, Gu Jianchen said. His eyes were cold and sinister as he expressed his battle intent. Then, he stared at Lin Tian and said, However, before the battle, I need to say something. You can't use the killing formation at that time. That day in Lin Tian's courtyard, he had felt the terror of the killing formation. It could definitely kill him easily. Gu Jianchen, do you have no F*king sense of shame? Ling Yun said from the martial arts arena. You asked for a battle, and now that others are responding, you actually want to stop them from using the killing formation? Then, do you want them to stand there and wait for you to attack and kill them so that you can prove your strength? How can someone like you be the saint of the Emergence Dao school? In the arena, the other disciples of the Emergence Dao school were also discussing softly. They were pointing at Gu Jianchen. This request was truly a little strange. In the center of the arena, Gu Jianshan's face was cold. Since you want to fight, you have to fight with your own strength. Apart from weapons, you can't rely on any external forces. My request is not excessive. Gu Jianshan did not care about Ling Yun's mockery. His eyes were filled with killing intent as he looked at Ling Yun ruthlessly. As for whether I'm worthy of being the saint of the Emergence Dao School, you will know after I kill him. Gu Jianshan stared at Ling Yun without hiding his killing intent. Everyone could feel such killing intent. Facing this killing intent, many people could not help but feel a chill on their necks. At this moment, the sound of something breaking through the air rang out. Lin Tian suddenly moved and appeared in front of Gu Jianshan like lightning. He raised his right hand and slapped. Slap! With a loud slap, Gu Jianshan was sent flying and landed at the edge of the arena. For a moment, everyone's eyes widened. Just a moment ago, Gu Jianshan was still arrogant and domineering, fearlessly revealing his murderous intent as he glared at Ling Yun. The next moment, he was sent flying with a single slap, rolling to the edge of the central main arena. The contrast between before and after was simply too stark. Lin Tian! Gu Jianshan stood up and roared. Lin Tian had actually slapped him while he was talking to Ling Yun. He had actually slapped him. I hate people who threaten my friends the most. Lin Tian's eyes were cold. He could clearly see Gu Jianshan's killing intent towards Ling Yun. Staring at Gu Jianshan, an extremely powerful aura rushed out of his body. As you wish, I won't use the killing array. However, you can rest assured that even without the killing array, I will still let you know that you, Gu Jianshan, are just a piece of trash who only knows how to bark at others. Boom! Tyrannical. Xiao Chen's quintessence vibrated, and a hurricane quickly spread out in all directions with him as the center. For a moment, the center of the arena shook. Everyone was shocked. So strong. Many people were shocked. At this moment, Lin Tian's aura was so powerful that it was frightening. It was like an ancient volcano that suddenly erupted. Even some of the Ascension sect elders who were in the immortal Ascension realm were shocked. He was too strong. Staring at Lin Tian, some of the ordinary elders who were in the second heaven of the Ascension realm were shocked. They actually felt that they might not be his match. On the high platform, the Ascension sect master's eyes flashed. Seventh heaven of the Imperial Sky Realm! Not long ago, Lin Tian had just broken through to the sixth heaven of the Imperial Sky Realm in the God-Down City. Now, in just 3 months, Lin Tian had broken through again, from the sixth heaven of the Imperial Sky Realm to the seventh heaven of the Imperial Sky Realm. Moreover, this aura was too strong, exceeding his expectations. Ascension Sect Master, this young man is not simple. Formless Sect Master narrowed his eyes. Boom! In the center of the main arena, waves of powerful true yuan rushed out of Lin Tian's body, causing the void to rumble. At this moment, Lin Tian stood in the arena like a god of war. His aura made everyone's heart tremble. I'll kill you! Gu Jianshan roared. Lin Tian's aura was very strong, but Gu Jianshan did not care. Only his face was ferocious. Lin Tian actually slapped him in front of everyone. To him, this was an absolute humiliation. Clang! With a flash, Gu Jianshan charged forward. The long sword in his hand was like a swimming dragon, intertwining with a cold light. Lin Tian's eyes were cold and indifferent. He faced Gu Jianshan head-on. With a single step, he crossed 10 meters and appeared in front of Gu Jianshan in an instant. He raised his right hand and punched out in a simple and direct manner. His fist landed on the void. Suddenly, it was like a thunderbolt had exploded. The void in front of him directly collapsed. Then, in the next moment, his fist landed and collided with Gu Jianshan's long sword head-on. Ka! A crisp sound was heard. The sword in Gu Jianshan's hand was instantly shattered into pieces. Gu Jianshan roared. With a shake of the sword hilt, an illusory sword appeared and slashed towards Lin Tian without any decrease in momentum. This is the Divine Light Sword? The Divine Light Sword was a very powerful ability in the Ascension sect. It was difficult to cultivate, but its offensive power was very strong. Gu Jianchen was able to use the divine light sword in the blink of an eye when his long sword was shattered. This shocked many disciples of the Ascension sect. "Kid, be careful!" Lingyan shouted. Lin Tian clearly felt that the illusory sword was not simple. However, his expression did not change at all. He opened his right hand, which was clenched into a fist. A silver divine diagram with a diameter of an inch appeared and pressed forward indifferently. Tao diagram of the four symbols. Whoosh! With a soft sound, Gu Jianchen's illusory sword was instantly annihilated. It disappeared without a trace like a spark. This caused Gu Jianchen's expression to change slightly. "You!" Lin Tian's eyes were cold. He used the yin-yang row and turned into a stream of light. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of Gu Jianchen again. He raised his right hand and slapped back. Slap! The second slap resounded throughout the entire martial arts practice field. P.S. Fifth update. When I was writing it, I was not satisfied with it. I deleted a few hundred words and then rewrote it. It took me until now to update. Sorry. Tomorrow will still be the fifth update. However, the update will be a little late. Everyone, please forgive me. Please forgive me. Sorry. Sorry. End of chapter. Chapter 571. A loud slap resounded. Following that, Gu Jianchen was sent flying again, rolling several feet away. In an instant, the entire martial arts practice field was dead silent again. Lin Tian had actually slapped Gu Jianchen again. Everyone was stunned. The number one core disciple, Gu Jianchen, was about to become the saint child of the Emergence Tao Gate. In other words, he was already the saint child of the Emergence Tao Gate. However, in the blink of an eye, he had been slapped twice by Lin Tian. Each slap was louder than the previous. After a few breaths, someone finally regained their senses and stared at the central arena in disbelief. The divine light sword was destroyed in the blink of an eye. Moreover, that Lin Tian, his speed, is so fast. He destroyed the divine light sword. How did he do it? Everyone's heart palpitated. The divine light sword was a great Tao-level divine ability, and its offensive power was very strong. However, it was destroyed by Lin Tian in an instant. Moreover, Lin Tian's subsequent actions were too fast as lightning. Most people only saw a blurry shadow, and in the next moment, they heard the sound of a slap and saw Gu Jianchen's figure flying. They did not see the entire process of Lin Tian's attack. Even some ordinary elders were shocked at this moment. So fast! Some elders said the same thing as many disciples. At the same time, on the high platform in the distance, the Ascension sect leader, the reclusive elders, and the formless sect leader were all shocked. Some ordinary people did not see Lin Tian's attack clearly, but the Ascension sect leader and the others saw it clearly. What is that diagram? The formless sect leader's eyes flashed. At this moment, the formless sect leader's gaze landed on Lin Tian, and his eyes shone brightly. Lin Tian! His roar resounded in the surroundings. Gu Jianchen stood up again, and his expression became extremely ferocious. He stared at Lin Tian like a wild beast. Lin Tian actually slapped him again. He was slapped by Lin Tian in front of so many people. He was so angry that he was about to go crazy. Didn't you want to prove to everyone that you are the strongest in the Ascension sect? Isn't it just some trash that can compare? Lin Tian's eyes were indifferent. That's right, I'm not using the killing array right now. Lin Tian's voice was very calm, but it caused many people to tremble. Before the start of this life and death battle, Gu Jianchen had said that he wanted to rely on his own strength to fight and requested that Lin Tian not use the killing array. But now, Lin Tian had sent Gu Jianchen flying with his bare hands and then spat out. I'm not using the killing array right now. This was simply a third slap to the face. The loudest slap in the face. Gu Jianchen's face twisted as he stared at Lin Tian viciously. His eyes were filled with rage. Boom! Boundless divine power surged, sharp and cold. Gu Jianchen was filled with killing intent. A huge snake charged out from behind him. It was silver in color, and had a pair of wings on its back. It was surrounded by strands of hazy mist, and its eyes shone with a dark light. Venomous flying python? No! This is a divine ability! It's the great ancient soaring snake! Many disciples were shocked. It's the great ancient soaring snake's divine ability! A Pete Great Tao divine ability! Someone said with certainty. Immediately, many people trembled. The soaring snake was a terrifying beast from ancient times. It was covered in silver scales and had a pair of wings on its back. Its body was shrouded in poisonous mist. It was very similar to the venomous flying python, but it was far from being comparable to the venomous flying python. In that era, a powerful cultivator had imitated the soaring snake's ability to create a technique. In the end, he had obtained the great ancient soaring snake. After the great ancient soaring snake's divine power was used, the soaring snake's body would be covered by divine power. Not only did it have powerful attack, perception, and dodging abilities, but the divine power shrouding the soaring snake's body could also weaken the enemy's strength. It could greatly reduce the enemy's speed and condense the flow of true origin or divine power. It was very terrifying. Kill! Gu Jianchen roared. The soaring snake's body covered his body. With a flash, his speed more than doubled. In the blink of an eye, he was in front of Lin Tian. He slammed his palm toward Lin Tian's chest. Before his hand arrived, a trace of the great ancient soaring snake's shroud had already landed on Lin Tian's body. Immediately, Lin Tian was shocked. He felt the true origin in his body shake. At this moment, Gu Jianchen's speed increased. His palm pressed down, and the sharp soaring snake's light shrouded it. With a sizzling sound, the void was directly annihilated. Lin Tian retreated with the yin-yang row, but he found that it was much more difficult to move. It was as if his body had become several times heavier. Even the flow of his true origin had become somewhat disrupted. At this moment, Gu Jianchen's palm pressed down. It was faster than before. Unable to dodge, he could only cross his arms in front of him. Bang! Gu Jianchen's palm landed firmly on Lin Tian's arms. A powerful force was transmitted over. With a grunt, Lin Tian was sent flying. Gu Jianchen stood where he was. The soaring snake's body covered his body. Do you think you can defeat me with your speed? With a boom, an even more powerful aura rushed out. A long sword appeared in his hand. The sword was engraved with all kinds of inscriptions. As soon as it appeared, it radiated with a terrifying immortal might. Without that killing formation, you're just an ant before me. A worm. I can crush you to death however I want to. Boom! Immortal light flashed, and the sword hummed. Seeing this scene, everyone in the martial arts practice field shivered. An immortal artifact, and a high-grade one at that. Just now, Lin Tian's speed slowed down. It's many times slower. It seems he's being suppressed by the great ancient soaring snake. As expected, Lin Tian may be strong, but in terms of combat ability, he's still far from Gu Jianchen's. The difference in cultivation is too great. One is in the immortal connecting realm, while the other is in the air. This sigh. Someone shook their head. In the main arena, Lin Tian's eyes were indifferent. Hum! Purple light flickered, and thunder crackled. A thunder god palace appeared behind him, and it covered his entire body. Then, a small starry sky appeared, and a bright moon appeared in it. There was a faint divine aura intertwined, like water ripples, spreading into his body. With a sizzling sound, a ball of light mist was shaken out of his body. Divine Hymn Palace. Starry Sky Moon. At this moment, he used the divining divine art to support the two kings' territories. He used the divine hymn palace to protect his body, and the origin power of the starry sky moon to force out the great ancient soaring snake's divine power. Then, he used the divine hymn palace to destroy it. And that wasn't the end. With a boom, a divine image appeared behind him. It was 30 meters tall and majestic. It was the Bai family's immortal king arcane art. Then, the three-leaf clover sea, the divine weapon bell, heavenly Lord Doran's enlightenment place, the primeval mountain, the 9 springs sacred sword, and other divine images appeared, floating around him. Finally, a stone mirror appeared, and immortal light illuminated the sky. That 10 jang tall divine shadow, what is it? And those, the three-leaf clover sea, the primeval mountain, and that blurry sword. What are those? That stone mirror seems to be a high-grade immortal artifact. The crowd was shocked. Just a moment ago, many people felt that Lin Tian was much weaker than Gu Jianqin in terms of battle prowess. After all, the difference in cultivation was enormous. Moreover, Gu Jianqin had a high-grade immortal sword in hand. Lin Tian should not be his opponent. However, at this moment, all of them turned pale with fright. Lin Tian had displayed one powerful special technique after another. Moreover, he also possessed a high-grade immortal artifact. Do you think it'll be useful just because you came up with some fancy stuff? Do you think you can fight me just because you have an immortal artifact of the same level as me? Gu Jianqin smiled viciously. The soaring serpent coiled around his body and charged at Lin Tian again. Immediately, the soaring serpent roared. Then, with a clang, the high-grade immortal artifact in his hand shone brightly and slashed at Lin Tian's left arm. I won't kill you directly. That's too easy for you. I'll cut off your limbs one by one to vent my anger. I'll let everyone see what happens to those who provoke me, Gu Jianqin. Clang! The soaring serpent was shrouded in light, and the sound of the sword was ear-piercing. In the blink of an eye, Gu Jianqin was in front of Lin Tian again. Lin Tian's eyes were indifferent. He stood where he was, unmoving like a mountain. Behind him, the 30-meter-tall divine image of the immortal king moved. It raised its left hand and slammed its right hand down at Gu Jianqin. At that moment, the space in front of them shook as if a sacred drum had been struck. As soon as Gu Jianqin got close, he met the palm of the great celestial king. He sneered and used his immortal sword to meet it, but the immortal artifact stone mirror collided with the immortal sword in his hand. With a crisp sound, it knocked him back. This shocked Gu Jianqin. The power from the stone mirror was too great. It was actually slightly stronger than the sword in his hand. At that moment, divine light exploded in the surroundings. Outside of Lin Tian's body, the Sea of Clover, the divine artifact bell, the exalted Doran's enlightenment ground, the primordial mountain, the 9 springs sacred sword, and other divine images flew over. They surrounded Gu Jianqin from all directions and mercilessly suppressed him with a thought from Lin Tian. In an instant, that piece of space shattered. Arg! A miserable cry rang out. In the next moment, Gu Jianqin's figure was sent flying. He landed 20 meters away in a sorry state. Immediately, the crowd's expression changed. At the same time, the Ascension Sect Master and the others on the high platform were also shocked. Lin Tian had injured Gu Jianqin again. Moreover, it was a serious injury. Gu Jianqin stood up in the distance. Blood was spurting out of his mouth. The great ancient soaring serpent's ability had been shattered. Only his sword was still in his hand. You! Staring at Lin Tian, Gu Jianqin was shocked and furious. Lin Tian had shattered his great ancient soaring serpent's ability, and injured him again. What? Didn't you say that I'm just an ant before you? Didn't you say that you can crush me to death however you want? Why are you standing there spitting blood now? Lin Tian mocked. Then, his eyes turned completely cold. He walked forward step by step. I've already said that you're just a piece of trash. In terms of divine abilities, you can't compare to me. In terms of immortal artifacts, I can also suppress you. Only in terms of cultivation base, you are a few small realms higher than me. And with your higher cultivation base, when I send you flying again and again, it only shows that you are even more trash and even more incompetent. P.S. Thank you to brother. Oh. he had been writing since 1 o'clock in the morning. After deleting and editing, he finally finished writing the first chapter of the day. He was so tired that he had to go to sleep. Then, today's second, third, fourth, and fifth chapters are all after 3 in the afternoon. I hope everyone can forgive me. Finally, I would like to ask for a small amount of votes for next month to thank everyone. Chapter 572. Lin Tian's words were extremely cold and piercing to the ear. Everyone in the surroundings of the martial arts practice ground gasped. Lin Tian, he... Some people's hearts trembled. Was Gu Jianchen really a piece of trash? Of course not. Compared to the many disciples of the Ascension sect, Gu Jianchen was definitely a powerful genius. However, no one could refute Lin Tian's claim that Gu Jianchen was a piece of trash. Gu Jianchen was in the second tier of the Ascension realm, while Lin Tian was in the Zephyr realm. However, at this moment, Gu Jianchen was sent flying by Lin Tian, who was in the Zephyr realm, and his great ancient soaring serpent was destroyed. In comparison, if Gu Jianchen was not a piece of trash, what was he? On the high platform, the eyes of the Ascension sect master and the others were filled with radiance. Lin Tian's strength was beyond everyone's expectations. Lin Tian! A roar filled with anger sounded. Gu Jianchen held the high-grade immortal sword. His face was distorted when he heard Lin Tian's words. Other than barking, what else can you do? Lin Tianling said. He closed in on Gu Jianchen step by step. His speed suddenly increased. He used the yin-yang puppet and moved as if he was stepping on the marks. In the blink of an eye, he was in front of Gu Jianchen. With a boom, he pushed the divine technique to the limit. The divine chime palace, the sun ocean, the starry moon, the three-leaf clover sea, the divine weapon bell, and the other divine elephants were all supported by him and pressed forward. His speed was extremely fast, and the divine technique was even more powerful. Under the pressure of the divine elephants, the void rumbled. Do I have to fight just because you asked me to? I didn't fight, so you came to find trouble with me. Do you think you are the king of the Ascension sect? Slap. Lin Tian's words were cold. He passed through the divine chime palace and slapped Gu Jianchen's face. Gu Jianchen spat out blood and flew to one side. However, Lin Tianji took a step forward and appeared in front of him again. In the Ascension sect, other than you, everyone else is trash? Who do you think you are? Bang! The sun sea shook. Under the pressure of the sun, Lin Tian's fist landed heavily on Gu Jianchen's chest. At that moment, the sound of bones shattering rang out. Gu Jianchen was still in the air when he was sent flying in another direction. Lin Tian moved and caught up with him again, appearing in front of him. You want to cripple me in front of all the Ascension sect disciples? Can you cripple me? Stand up and let me see you cripple one of them. He clenched his fists and smashed them down. Pooh! Gu Jianchen screamed as he was smashed into the main ring by Lin Tianyi, causing cracks to appear all over the ring. You're truly a piece of trash. Right now, I only have you in front of me, Gu Jianchen. Without showing any mercy, Lin Tian raised his leg and kicked out viciously, sending Gu Jianchen flying again. Overbearing, unreasonable, condescending, and believing that everyone should respect him and listen to him, this was Gu Jianchen. How could Lin Tian show mercy to such a person? He used several divine elephants and stepped on the yin and yang road to move, enveloping Gu Jianchen as he punched him continuously. Even though Gu Jianchen had a high-grade immortal artifact, it was difficult for him to dodge such an attack because Lin Tian also had an immortal artifact. This, Gu Jianchen is, being suppressed? That Lin Tian In the martial arts arena, the crowd was shocked. The powerful Gu Jianchen, the first core disciple and the second heaven of the Ascension sect, had already been confirmed as this generation's saint of the Ascension sect. But now, he was being suppressed by Lin Tian. Streams of blood splattered in the air, shocking everyone. Bang! 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 Lin Tian's expression was cold. He stepped on the yin and yang row and attacked mercilessly. The divine elephants pressed down one after another. For a moment, the entire central main arena was shaking. His current advantage was his strong physique and extreme speed. Just based on these 2 points, he could even compete with the fourth heaven of the Ascension realm. Now that he was close to Gu Jianchen, he naturally wouldn't miss this opportunity. The divine elephants pressed down without any cost. The sun sea, divine cry hall, desolate heaven world, and the starry sky moon were all used. Ah! Gu Jianchen made a sound, but no one knew if it was a roar or a scream. Lin Tian. With a roar and a sonorous sword sound, Lin Tian shattered the divine elephants pressed down by Lin Tian, creating a hurricane. Lin Tian rushed forward in a flash. However, his expression changed in the next moment. He immediately stopped in his tracks. At this moment, Gu Jianchen's aura in front of him became blurry, but there was an extremely terrifying sword aura rushing up. Suddenly, an inexplicable throbbing came from his heart, causing his expression to change slightly. He instinctively dodged to the side. Almost at the same time, the immortal artifact stone mirror on his left shoulder shook violently, as if it had been hit by a sword light. An invisible sword light? Lin Tian's expression changed. He could feel the terrifying sword aura from Gu Jianchen, but he didn't see the sword light flying towards him. He didn't even feel the sword aura pressing down on him. He just instinctively felt a sense of danger and dodged to the right. Then, the mirror on his left shoulder shook violently as if it had been hit by the sword light. It could be imagined that if he hadn't dodged to the right, his throat might have been pierced on the spot. At that time, he would have died. Staring at Gu Jianchen, his eyes flashed, but he didn't attack rashly. That invisible sword gleam just now made him feel danger. Kill! Gu Jianchen roared. His sword aura became even more shocking, and he chopped down at Lin Tian. He didn't see the sword light appear, nor did he feel the sword aura pressing down on him, but Lin Tian suddenly felt a chill down his spine. He spread out the yin and yang ho and moved quickly based on his instincts, changing his position in the center of the main arena. Many people in the martial arts practice field felt strange when they saw this. In the eyes of the crowd, Gu Jianchen seemed to be waving his sword casually at the void, and there wasn't a single sword light. However, Lin Tian seemed to be coordinating with Gu Jianchen's movements to dodge. This made many people curious. What were these two doing at this time? Chi! At this moment, a soft sound was heard. In the center of the arena, Lin Tian's abdomen suddenly burst open, and bright red drops of blood sputtered into the void. This is... The crowd was shocked. Lin Tian's abdomen was suddenly cut open. It looked like a sword light had cut open his abdomen. I didn't see the sword light. Some people were puzzled. In the center of the main arena, Gu Jianchen's eyes were ferocious. He waved the upper-grade immortal weapon in his hand wildly, and the sword aura became stronger. Still, there was no sword light. Lin Tian couldn't feel the sword aura pressing down on him, but he could only feel death approaching. Chi! He used the immortal weapon to protect himself, and a light screen was propped up. However, the light screen was soon broken, and his right arm was cut open again. Gradually, he felt that Gu Jianchen's aura became blurry, and he gradually couldn't feel the sword aura. Even Gu Jianchen's appearance became slightly hazy, and he frowned. Kid, be careful. That seems to be the Emergence God's sword. It's the Emergence God's skill in the ancient scripture of the sect. Lingyan shouted. As soon as this was said, the crowd was shocked, and they were all shocked. It's the Emergence God's sword. The Emergence God's skill and the Emergence God's skill, known as the Invisible Sword Dao Divine Skill, the Undetectable Sword Dao Killing Technique? That's the Emergence God's skill. As the ancient scripture of the sect, shouldn't only the Holy Son, the sect leader, the Grand Elder, and other core members of the sect be qualified to cultivate it? Gu Jianchen, how could he? Many people were shocked. Many powerful disciples of the Emergence God's skill couldn't cultivate the ancient scripture of the Emergence God's skill, but they knew it very well. Some people whispered. This ancient scripture was called the Emergence God's skill, and it was said to be able to blur one's perception and make oneself illusory. It could even make one's aura and body disappear from the enemy's vision and divine sense. However, only the Holy Son, the sect leader, the Grand Elder, and other core members of the sect were qualified to cultivate this ancient scripture. But now, Gu Jianchen had just become the saint of the Ascension Dao sect, and he was already able to use such a divine ability. Obviously, it was impossible for him to have just learned it. In other words, Gu Jianchen had learned a divine ability like the Ascension God's Sword before. Has Gu Jianchen been cultivated as the Holy Son from the beginning? Some people's expressions changed. On the high platform, the Emergence God Skill Master looked at the central arena. There was no light in his eyes, and no one knew what he was thinking. Beside him, the Formless Sect Master glanced at the Emergence God Skill Master, and his eyes narrowed slightly. Kill! 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 In the central arena, Gu Jianchen roared and waved the high-grade immortal weapon in his hand. No one could see the sword light. They could only see Lin Tian dodging in the main arena. The Emergence God's Sword can't be seen with the naked eye, and divine sense can't capture it. He's dodging purely by instinct. How many Emergence killing swords has he dodged in the process? Is his innate spiritual sense that strong? Everyone was shocked. The Feather God's Sword could not be seen with the naked eye, and could not be captured with the divine sense. From the moment Gu Jianchen had swung his sword across the air, it was obvious that he had been using the Feather God's Sword. From then until now, many people believed that Gu Jianchen had swung out at least 100 sword lights. However, facing hundreds of killing swords that could not be seen with the naked eye, and could not be captured with the divine sense, Lin Tian had only been hit by 2 sword lights. He had completely dodged the other sword lights by relying on his instincts. How powerful was his instinct? How terrifying was his spiritual sense? Is he a monster? Someone was horrified. On the main arena, Lin Tian's eyes flashed. He moved quickly based on his instinct to avoid the approaching danger. It was also at this moment that a question in his heart was finally answered. Previously, when he discovered that the middle-aged man guarding the pavilion was the Ascension Gate sect master, he had been wondering why the elders of the other sects did not recognize that the middle-aged man guarding the pavilion was the Ascension Gate sect master when they were in the God Burial Mountain. Logically speaking, as one of the 12 sects, it was impossible for these people not to know what the Ascension Gate sect master looked like. Now, he finally figured it out. The Emergence God skill was said to be able to blur one's senses and make one illusory in the eyes of one's enemies. He guessed that the middle-aged man guarding the pavilion must have used the Emergence God skill master when they were in the God Burial Mountain. That was why those people couldn't see his true appearance, or saw another appearance. Chapter 573. After figuring out the reason why the Ascension Sect Master wasn't recognized in the God Burial Mountain, Lin Tian also figured out why the Ascension Sect Master's consciousness clone was hard to see. It was covered in a hazy mist. Clearly, it had something to do with the Ascension God technique. However, he was slightly curious as to why the Ascension Sect Master would go to the Profound God Pavilion to be a guard. Kill! A ruthless roar rang out. Lin Tianji felt a chill run down his spine. The yin-yang Tao flashed and moved 10 meters to the right. Because he was thinking about the Ascension Sect Master, he was a little late in dodging. Immediately his sleeves were cut apart. It really is the Ascension God's sword. It can't be seen with the naked eye and the consciousness can't capture it. How can he deal with this? Lin Tian can't keep dodging, right? Many people frowned. At this moment, they could feel the sword aura around Gu Jianchen's body rising rapidly. It was getting more and more terrifying. If this continued, Lin Tian's situation would get worse and worse. In the end, he would be defeated. Let's see how long you can keep dodging. You can only die. Kneel at my feet and become a corpse, Gu Jianchen said coldly. Staring at Lin Tian, Gu Jianchen's eyes were extremely vicious. They were filled with malevolence and ruthlessness. Lin Tian had insulted and contradicted him time and time again. He had injured him in the arena and forced him to use the Ascension God's sword. He wanted to tear Lin Tian to pieces. Holding a high-grade immortal sword, he slashed at Lin Tian crazily. The invisible Ascension God sword quickly engulfed Lin Tian. Lin Tian's eyes were cold. He didn't say anything and only dodged with the yin-yang Tao. The crowd looked at the center of the arena. Although they couldn't see the sword lights clearly, there were no traces of blood on Lin Tian's body. His clothes weren't torn. They knew that Lin Tian had dodged all the invisible Ascension God sword. They couldn't help but be shocked. Not only these people, even the Ascension Gate sect leader and the reclusive elders on the high platform were moved. Fellow Ascension sect master, this young man called Lin Tian has a pretty good spiritual sense. He can be considered a genius. Formless sect master narrowed his eyes. The Ascension Gate sect leader did not say anything. He merely glanced at the faceless sect leader indifferently before looking at the main arena in the center. Gu Jianchen roared with a sinister look in his eyes. He kept slashing with his immortal sword. There was no sword light, but in front of him, Lin Tian was constantly moving his body, and he could be considered to be in a slightly difficult situation. "Ant! Don't jump around!" Gu Jianchen shouted. As he spoke, the divine light of the high-grade immortal sword shone brightly. There was no sword light, but the sword momentum on his body became even sharper. Lin Tian relied on his instincts to dodge Gu Jianchen's Ascension sword light. In half an hour, he was struck several more times, and he was unable to dodge them. During this process, he tried to get closer to Gu Jianchen, but he discovered that he could not. The closer he got to Gu Jianchen, the greater the sense of danger and death he felt. This sense of death prevented him from moving forward. His eyes narrowed slightly, and the yin-yang Tao flickered. Behind him, the solar ocean surged again. "Let the solar ocean shine in all directions," he said coldly. A blazing sun soared into the sky, emitting extremely intense light. It was so dazzling that many people had to cover their eyes. Gu Jianchen directly closed his eyes, and the high-grade immortal sword in his right hand slashed out again. "A harmless light just to make us close our eyes and take a nap? Are you putting on a monkey show?" He swung the high-grade immortal sword. Although there was no sword light, the sword momentum on his body became even more terrifying, causing the space around him to distort. Lin Tian did not say anything, and the solar ocean that he held up dissipated with a whoosh. Gu Jianchen's sword momentum became even stronger, and he naturally felt a greater threat, so he kept dodging. After a few dozen breaths, his left arm was struck again. Gu Jianchen sneered, and he regained his initial arrogance. He looked down at Lin Tian like an emperor. "Your spiritual sense is powerful, but you can keep dodging. Keep dodging. I have all the time in the world to accompany you. I'll slowly torture you to death." Lin Tian dodged and retreated 10 meters away with a mocking smile. Do you think you still have a chance to inherit the position of the Ascension Sect Saint? Death is your final destination." His words were indifferent. Almost at the same time, a black and white lotus petal fell from Gu Jianchen's head. Gu Jianchen's eyes were cold. "What is this?" Whoosh! The lotus petal was very fast, and it instantly sank into Gu Jianchen's head like a flash of light. "Ah!" Gu Jianchen let out a miserable shriek as he stumbled backwards. The sword of emergence he was about to use had been interrupted. Lin Tian did not hesitate. His figure flashed, and he took advantage of this gap to force his way over. He waved his right fist and landed it on Gu Jianchen's face. Bang! Gu Jianchen was sent flying. A tooth fell out, and it flew out with blood. "There's one thing that you're right about, very right." Lin Tian stepped on the yin-yang hole, and smashed another fist down at Gu Jianchen's flying body. "That Yen Yangguan wants you to close your eyes and take a nap." He could not see the winged sword with the naked eye, nor could he capture it with the senses of his soul. As a result, he used the dazzling sunlight of the sun sea to force Gu Jianchen to close his eyes. It was also at that moment that a petal of the yin-yang lotus floated out from between his eyebrows under the blinding sunlight. It moved slowly and appeared above Gu Jianquan's head in the next moment. In this way, the opportunity for a counterattack was perfect. The black and white lotus petal moved very quickly, and it had an absolute killing power against the sea of consciousness. After entering between Gu Jianquan's eyebrows, it directly charged into his sea of consciousness and exploded there. Although it was far from enough to destroy Gu Jianquan's sea of consciousness, it was enough to make Gu Jianquan feel intense pain and interrupt his ascension sword. You bang! Lin Tian punched Gu Jianquan's face again. Gu Jianquan was immediately sent flying and coughed up blood. Lin Tian closed in and used the divining divine technique to the limit. Many divine elephants appeared and pressed down on Gu Jianquan. At the same time, he also activated the immortal artifact stone mirror, causing it to shine with a peerless light. Lin Tian! Gu Jianquan roared as he activated the high-grade immortal artifact. With a boom, the sharp sword aura rushed out. With Gu Jianquan as the center, the space within 10 feet was filled with sword light. You'll die here! Lin Tian said those words. He no longer held back and directly supported the complete phenomenon in his sea of consciousness. For a moment, the sky was filled with black and white lotus petals. They hummed like lotus swords and a dense aura of yin and yang spread out. On the high platform, the sect master of the phaseless immortal sect narrowed his eyes and shone brightly. A phenomenon in the sea of consciousness! Staring at Lin Tian, the light in the middle-aged man's eyes became brighter and brighter. To be able to comprehend a phenomenon in the sea of consciousness, one must be a genius among geniuses. What a pleasant surprise! I underestimated him just now. Turns out he's a true genius. The sect master of the phaseless immortal sect smiled. The sect master of the Ascension Immortal Sect glanced at the sect master of the phaseless immortal sect and said nothing. He only looked at the central main platform quietly. At this moment, the others in the martial arts field recognized what Lin Tian's Lotus Sea was and were all shocked. A phenomenon in the sea of consciousness can only be comprehended by true geniuses. It's said that it can cross 8 levels at most to battle. Someone's heart palpitated. At this moment, these people stared at Lin Tian again and finally realized how terrifying Lin Tian was. Lin Tian actually controlled the phenomenon in the sea of consciousness. Only Ling Yun chuckled and wasn't surprised because he already knew that Lin Tian had such means. On the central platform, Lin Tian's eyes were cold as the phenomenon in his sea of consciousness swept out. Instantly, the entire main platform was covered by black and white lotus petals. For a moment, the black light of yin and the white pure yang intertwined. The yin and yang auras intertwined and merged, causing the space to seem to have returned to the primitive era where yin and yang auras existed. The void rippled like water. Gu Jianquan turned pale with fright as he felt a huge threat. His sea of consciousness actually trembled slightly. You! Lin Tian's eyes were cold as a light flashed between his eyebrows. Suddenly, the dense black and white lotus petals on the main platform vibrated and intertwined to form a huge yin and yang lotus diagram. He took a step forward and used all his strength. His right hand held the yin and yang lotus diagram formed by the lotus petals and pressed it forward. With a hum, the yin and yang auras instantly spread out. Gu Jianquan felt a chill run down his spine and couldn't help but roar. In the blink of an eye, he used the great ancient soaring serpent to defend himself. Lin Tianling snorted and raised his left hand slightly. The 4 symbols Dao diagram formed in the blink of an eye and pressed down at close range. Gu Jianquan's great ancient soaring serpent resisted for a moment before it shattered with a sizzling sound. Kill! Lin Tianling shouted. Holding the yin and yang lotus diagram, he took a step forward and pressed down heavily. At this moment, he actually had less than half of his true essence left. This was because Gu Jianquan was indeed not an ordinary cultivator at the second sky of the immortal ascension realm. He was very strong and not easy to deal with. From the beginning to the end, he had been fighting in his peak state. Naturally, his true essence was consumed very quickly. At this moment, he held the yin and yang lotus diagram. His eyes were cold as he increased his power again, causing the yin and yang lotus diagram's aura to become even more terrifying. It enveloped Gu Jianchen completely. Ah! A scream rang out almost instantly. The yin and yang lotus diagram enveloped Gu Jianchen. The black and white light shook violently and only dispersed after a few breaths. Gu Jianchen's body flew out horizontally. His eyes were bloodshot and his 7 orifices were bleeding. He trembled at the edge of the main arena and struggled continuously. More than half of his body was dyed red with blood. At this moment, Gu Jianchen's sea of consciousness was severely damaged by the yin and yang lotus diagram. His aura was at its lowest point. Gu Jianchen, lost, someone murmured. For a moment, all the disciples of the Ascension sect in the arena were stunned. Even the ordinary sect elders were moved. They never thought that Lin Tianling would actually win against Gu Jianchen. Lin Tianling's eyes were cold. A long sword appeared in his hand as he stepped toward Gu Jianchen. Just one more strike and this battle would end. Bastard! Staring at Lin Tianling walking over, Gu Jianchen's eyes were extremely vicious. Suddenly, there was a hint of viciousness in his eyes. He quickly took out a blood-red pill and threw it into his mouth. P.S. The 4th update should be around 10 p.m. Chapter 574. At this time, Gu Jianchen's movements were a little fast. Almost at the moment he swallowed the blood-colored pellet, an extremely powerful wave spread out from his body. The violent vibration of divine power swept through the entire central main arena. Gu Jianchen jumped up and stood up again. He stared at Lin Tian viciously with undisguised murderous intent. He should have been seriously injured and unable to fight back. But now, his injuries have healed, and it seems like he's even stronger than before? In the martial arts practice field, everyone's expression changed. Gu Jianchen had clearly been defeated by Lin Tian. Many people had seen that scene. At that time, Gu Jianchen's aura was so weak that it was impossible for him to even stand up. But now, in the blink of an eye, Gu Jianchen's injuries seemed to have healed. His exhausted divine power had recovered, and the waves he emitted were even stronger than when he was at his peak. What did you swallow just now? Lin Tianling said coldly. Gu Jianchen's eyes were sinister. His sword aura rose. Nothing. It's just a catalyst to help me use my divine power. Nothing? Catalyst? Lin Tian stared coldly at Gu Jianchen and shouted. Do you think I'm an idiot? Can't I tell that you swallowed the blood soul pill? It's an upper 6th grade pill. It can temporarily increase one's cultivation and combat strength and stimulate divine power. He was a 5th grade alchemist who had inherited the medicine master's immortal canon. There were few pills in this world that he did not recognize. What? Blood soul pill? It can temporarily increase one's cultivation and combat strength and stimulate divine power. Is there such a pill? Gu Jianchen swallowed that Baodan? How can this be? I was wondering how his injuries healed in the blink of an eye. His aura even became stronger. Is this it? If that's true, then this is too much, many people said. Damn it, Gu Jianchen, you shameless bastard! Ling Yun cursed. You were the one who told others not to use the killing formation at the start, saying that you wanted to rely on your own strength to fight. Now that you've swallowed such a pill, how can you have the nerve to live? Ling Yun naturally wouldn't doubt Lin Tian's words. Since Lin Tian said it, it had to be the truth. Gu Jianchen's expression changed slightly as his heart churned. He had paid a considerable price to obtain this bout, and when he was training outside, he had been carefully keeping it, preparing for the Holy Sun battle. It wasn't that he didn't have confidence in himself, but he didn't want any accidents to happen. He had to become the saint and step on everyone. In the end, he was defeated in a battle to the death with Lin Tian. He couldn't accept it, and he couldn't die, so he swallowed the blood soul pill. He couldn't die, and he had to kill Lin Tian. However, what he didn't expect was that Lin Tian could recognize this Baodan at a glance. Moreover, he was so clear about the effects of this Bao Dan. In order not to be seen through, he had brought the blood soul pill out of the Ascension sect. He had paid the price of several precious treasures to invite a level 7 alchemist to evaluate this Bao Dan. However, that level 7 alchemist couldn't say anything, and he couldn't say the name of the Bao Dan or the effects of the Bao Dan. This made him very relieved at that time, and he didn't care when he swallowed it. He didn't think that anyone would be able to see through it. However, what he didn't expect was that Lin Tian could recognize the blood soul pill that even a level 7 alchemist couldn't recognize with just a glance. Secretly taking a deep breath, Gu Jianchen sneered and stared at Lin Tian now. I don't know what the blood soul pill you're talking about is. I only took an ordinary pill that I refined myself to complement the Bao Dan. It has nothing to do with the blood soul pill you're talking about. I also don't know what the blood soul pill is. Gu Jianchen guessed that Lin Tian might have seen the blood soul pill before, so he could recognize it with just a glance. However, so what if he recognized it? As long as he didn't admit it, there would be no evidence. No one here could test the effects of the Bao Dan. This blood soul pill belonged to the forbidden Bao Dan. Back then, he had obtained it through some special means. Even a level 7 alchemist couldn't detect it, and the Ascension Gate only had a level 6 alchemist at most. He laughed sinisterly in his heart, and stared at Lin Tian even more viciously. Now, are you afraid of death? So you're deliberately framing. Gu Jianchen! A deep and cold shout rang out, directly interrupting what Gu Jianchen wanted to say next. On the high platform, the Ascension Gate sect master's expression sank. He naturally saw Gu Jianchen swallow the Bao Dan, but he actually didn't know that it was the blood soul pill. However, coincidentally, he cultivated the Ascension God art, and Gu Jianchen also cultivated a part of it. Just now, there was a slight resonance between the two, which allowed him to capture a trace of Gu Jianchen's thoughts. Lin Tian was actually speaking the truth. You've lost. Step down, the Ascension Gate sect master said. In the martial arts field, everyone was shocked. They all looked at the Ascension Gate sect master, and then at Gu Jianchen on the stage. Since the sect master said such words, it means Lin Tian is speaking the truth. This, many people discussed. Then, everyone's gaze fell on Gu Jianchen. Was Gu Jianchen really that shameless? Faced with everyone's pointed fingers and strange gazes, Gu Jianchen's face turned green and purple. However, he clenched his teeth and didn't say anything. He forced himself to remain calm and said, Sect Master, I don't understand what you mean. Enough. Step down. The Ascension Gate sect master shouted. Gu Jianchen looked at the Ascension Gate sect master and clenched his fists. He knew that there was no room for him to speak, so he could only walk down the stage. At this moment, his gaze became even more venomous. He hated Lin Tian to the core. He thought that everything was Lin Tian's fault. He felt that if Lin Tian now didn't tell him that he had consumed the blood soul elixir, no one would know about it. Then, he wouldn't have to embarrass himself and would have won this life and death battle. During this process, he had never thought that consuming the blood soul elixir was against the rules. Moreover, he had consumed the blood soul elixir because he wanted to use it to kill Lin Tian. Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! Gu Jianchen roared in his heart. The crowd stared at Gu Jianchen. Many of them looked at him with disdain, and many of them pointed fingers at him. There were also people who looked at Lin Tian with congratulatory smiles, congratulating Lin Tian for winning the battle. Compared to Lin Tian and Gu Jianchen, most of the Ascension Gate disciples had a better impression of Lin Tian. For better or for worse, Lin Tian had once caused great harm to Yu Shaoqing in the sect, helping many outer and inner sect disciples vent their anger and resentment. Clang! At this moment, an ear-piercing sword hum rang out. It slashed at Gu Jianchen's feet, creating a deep crack. You can only die if you stand in the central arena. You don't have the right to walk out alive. A cold voice rang out. Lin Tian stood in the central arena. He turned around and looked at the Ascension Gate Master on the high platform. He bowed and said, Gate Master, please allow this battle to continue. Gu Jianchen wanted to cripple him and kill him for no reason. How could he let Gu Jianchen go? That blood soul elixir. Gu Jianchen's aura is even stronger than when he was at his peak. He seems to have reached the third firmament of ascension. Lin Tian, he's too reckless. Many people's expressions changed. They couldn't understand why Lin Tian would say something like this at this moment. It was too irrational. Gate Master, I also request for this battle to continue. It won't end until one of us dies. Gu Jianchen also spoke. Instantly, the martial arts practice field was dead silent. Then, someone couldn't help but curse in a low voice. I've never seen such a shameless person. When Lin Tian said that he wanted to continue the battle, he was courageous, which was admirable. As for Gu Jianchen, it was already despicable of him to consume a pill that could temporarily increase his cultivation when he was about to lose the battle. But now, after Lin Tian spoke, he actually followed suit and asked the master of the Ascension sect to continue the battle. Many disciples of the Ascension sect despised him for his shamelessness. They found him rather disgusting. Gu Jianchen, I finally understand where your strength comes from. I finally understand why you can become the first core disciple. It's because of your shamelessness. Ling Yan shouted. From today onwards, Lord Ling has decided to look up to you. I'll definitely learn from you. This way, I'll definitely be able to dominate the 10 regions in the future. Ling Yan's voice wasn't soft. It spread throughout the entire martial arts practice field. Shameless. That's right. Don't you know how to write the word shameless? Many people whispered. In the central arena, Gu Jianchen naturally heard these discussions, but he didn't care at all. He only stared viciously at Lin Tian. He was going to continue this battle of life and death. He was going to kill Lin Tian. After that, he would still be the saint of the Ascension Gate. Those who mocked him, he would make them pay with their blood one by one. Kill! With a low roar, the divine energy outside Gu Jianchen's body became even more violent. He didn't wait for the Ascension Gate Master to speak and directly charged at Lin Tian. The high-grade immortal sword in his hand shone with an immortal light. Brat, be careful! Ling Yun couldn't help but shout. At this moment, Gu Jianchen was even more terrifying than when he was at his peak after consuming the Baodan. He had reached the third heavenly layer of the Zephyr realm. Although this would only be achieved in a short period of time, and once the effects of the Blood Soul pill wore off, it would fall back down, and there might even be severe side effects. However, that was not important. What was important was that the current Gu Jianchen was very terrifying, and he was worried about Lin Tian. Kill! Gu Jianchen's roar reverberated throughout the central arena. At this moment, the divine energy outside his body became much stronger. It was like a blazing flame. Facing this aura, Lin Tian's black hair danced wildly in front of his forehead. However, his eyes were terrifyingly cold. He raised his right hand. On each of his 5 fingers, a small green fireball jumped out. Moreover, each fireball had a strange imprint on it. It was mysterious and magical. P.S. The 5th watch should be at 2:00 in the morning. Everyone, wait until tomorrow to see it. Long, work hard to write. Chapter 575. 5 balls of fire danced on his fingertips. Although they were small, they burned fiercely, twisting the space around them. The most peculiar thing was that there were strange patterns on the surface of the 5 balls of fire, giving people a feeling of fantasy. Die! Gu Jianchen roared. His divine power boiled like an erupting volcano as he charged at Lin Tian with his sword. After the blood soul pill entered his body, Gu Jianchen's injuries healed. He even temporarily broke through to the 3rd tier of the connecting immortal realm. With a clanging sound, the sound of swords rang out as dozens of sword lights slashed down towards Lin Tian. Every one of them was extremely terrifying. This too strong. The space in front of us is cracking? Lin Tian, how are we going to fight? This? Many people around the training field were shocked. At this moment, Gu Jianchen was even stronger than he was at his peak. Lin Tian, die! Remember, it's your arrogance that's going to kill you! Gu Jianchen sneered. 5 balls of green fire danced in Lin Tian's right hand, making sizzling sounds. Hearing Gu Jianchen's words, he couldn't help but laugh mockingly. Now, who was the arrogant one between him and Gu Jianchen? He didn't say anything. Although he was laughing, his eyes were cold. With a flick of his left hand, the immortal artifact stone mirror vibrated. A beam of immortal light more than 3 inches in diameter shot out, heading straight for Gu Jianchen. With a boom, the void rumbled. The immortal light was terrifying. Useless! Gu Jianchen yelled. Because of the blood soul pill, he was now in the 3rd tier of the connecting immortal realm. Although it was only temporary, he was still in the 3rd tier of the connecting immortal realm. He was several times stronger than when he was at his peak. He didn't care about the immortal light from the stone mirror that was more than 3 inches in diameter. He directly slashed forward with the immortal sword. Chi! With a crisp sound, the beam of immortal light was shattered. It's all in vain! You're too weak now, weaker than an ant! Gu Jianchen's eyes were vicious, but the next moment, his expression changed. Lin Tianyi stepped in front of him, leaving after images. How dare you, wind subjugation seal! With a cold voice, the 5 balls of fire in Lin Tian's right hand trembled and were pushed forward, landing on Gu Jianchen's chest. Gu Jianchen was stunned for a moment before he burst out laughing. He didn't feel any pain, nor did he feel any heat. Are you tickling me? Or do you want to use this flame to increase my body temperature? It's really you? Suddenly, Gu Jianchen's laughter and mockery froze on his face, and his aura rapidly decreased. What happened? Gu Jianchen's aura has suddenly dropped rapidly. He's about to become like when he was heavily injured. This? Lin Tian, what did he do? Everyone was shocked. On the high platform, the Ascension Gate sect master revealed a strange expression as he stared seriously at Lin Tian's right hand. Those 5 balls of flames were very peculiar. The Taoist blueprint at the very beginning, the 5 flames, and the phenomenon in the Library of Heaven's Path. That young man is no ordinary person. The faceless sect master's eyes flashed. In the central main arena, Gu Jianchen's powerful aura receded like a tide. In the blink of an eye, it had weakened to the lowest point. He stared furiously at Lin Tian. What did you do to me? Why? Where did my power go? Bang! Lin Tian's eyes were cold. He raised his hand and punched Gu Jianchen's chin, sending him several meters into the air. He took a small step back. Just as Gu Jianchen's body was about to touch the surface of the arena, he kicked out again, sending Gu Jianchen flying again. However, in the next moment, he appeared beside Gu Jianchen again. He waved his right hand and sent Gu Jianchen crashing into the central main arena with a punch. Bang! He raised his right leg and stomped down hard on Gu Jianchen's face. With a cracking sound, the faint sound of a broken nose could be heard. Lin, bang! Lin Tian raised his right leg and stomped down hard again. This time, he landed on Gu Jianchen's chest. Immediately, the sound of ribs breaking resounded clearly in the space. After taking the blood soul pill, Gu Jianchen's cultivation had temporarily reached the 3rd level of the connecting immortal realm. It was indeed very powerful and terrifying. However, how could Lin Tian be afraid? He was a 5th-level alchemist. Moreover, he had inherited the ancient scriptures of one of the 9 celestial sovereigns, the apothecary master. He had mastered many amazing alchemy skills. It was not difficult for him to use alchemy skills to erase the medicinal effects of a cultivator who had just taken a 6th-level Baodan. This was the power of the Wind Subjugation Seal. He used the Wind Subjugation Seal and injected its seal power into Gu Jianchen's body through his chest. In the blink of an eye, it destroyed all the medicinal effects of the blood soul pill in Gu Jianchen's body. After the medicinal effects were destroyed, Gu Jianchen's aura naturally weakened. His cultivation returned to the 2nd level of the connecting immortal realm. His injuries were the same as before. No, they were even worse. At this time, Gu Jianquan's divine power had almost dried up. He could no longer use his immortal weapon. You, to me, bang! Lin Tian stomped down again. The sound of bones breaking rang out again. The crowd around the arena was stunned. Gu Jianquan, lost again? This time, he lost so quickly. His cultivation and aura from the third level of the connecting immortal realm just disappeared. Lin Tian, Many people were shocked. In the central arena, Lin Tian kicked Gu Jianquan to the east and to the west. Gu Jianquan roared madly in humiliation. Only when Gu Jianquan's voice became hoarse did he finally stop. Then, with a clang, a 3-foot-long sword appeared in his hand. It glowed with cold killing intent. He slashed it at Gu Jianquan's throat. I've said it before. Since you're standing on this arena, you'll only die. Lin Tian's eyes were emotionless. The sword flew through the air, aiming at Gu Jianquan's throat. Gu Jianquan's eyes widened in despair. This sword was very ordinary, but he couldn't dodge it at all. Swoosh! At this moment, the secluded elder appeared in the central arena. He grabbed Lin Tian's hand that was holding the sword. Let him live, the secluded elderly Danyan said. Why? Lin Tian's face darkened. If he won, he would let Gu Jianquan go. But if Gu Jianquan won, what would happen to him? As if knowing what he was thinking, the secluded elder said, If you lose, the sect master will definitely save your life. Lin Tian, spare his life. Take it that I'm asking for a favor from you. On the high platform, the Ascension sect master said. Lin Tian frowned. He paused for a moment, and glanced coldly at Gu Jianquan. Only then did he keep his sword. He wanted to kill Gu Jianquan, but since the Ascension sect master personally asked for mercy, how could he refuse him? He respected this middle-aged man very much. After all, he was indebted to the Ascension sect master. Moreover, he believed that the Ascension sect master wouldn't be biased towards Gu Jianquan for no reason. There should be a reason that he didn't know. At this moment, applause sounded. On the high platform, the formless sect master clapped and stood up with a smile. Brilliant! Brilliant! The Ascension sect is indeed worthy of being the leader of the 12 Dao sects. Today's grand competition has truly broadened my horizons. As he spoke, the formless sect master glanced at Lin Tian and Gu Jianquan on the central arena. He said to the Ascension sect master, Ascension sect master, can you give these two to my formless immortal sect? I'm very satisfied with them. What? Everyone in the arena was shocked. The formless sect master actually wanted the Ascension sect master to give away Lin Tian and Gu Jianquan. For a moment, many people looked at each other in dismay. Lin Tian frowned. He didn't care about the formless sect master wanting the Ascension sect master to give him and Gu Jianquan to the formless immortal sect for the time being. Instead, he felt that the formless sect master's attitude towards the Ascension sect had started to change. The biggest change was in the way he addressed the Ascension sect master. He changed from the initial fellow Taoist Ascension sect master to Ascension sect master. There was a faint sense of superiority. Give them to the formless immortal sect? On the high platform, the Ascension sect master looked at the formless sect master and said, Is the formless sect master joking? Lin Tian and Gu Jianquan are the most outstanding geniuses of my Ascension sect. Your request isn't very suitable, right? Of course I'm not joking. I'm very serious, and I admire the two of them very much. I want to bring them back to the formless immortal sect and properly nurture them. The formless sect master spoke. However, there was an additional sense of dominance in his tone as he said, As for whether it's suitable or not, that's a simple question. I feel that it's suitable, and the Ascension sect master, it's also very suitable for you to hand them over. The Ascension sect master looked at the central main stage and said, Regardless of whether it's a joke or not, regardless of whether it's suitable or not, I'm indebted to the formless sect master for appreciating the two of them. However, I ask for your forgiveness. Giving away our own genius disciples to other sects is something that has never happened before in the history of the Ascension sect. I can't set a precedent, and have nothing to say to my ancestors in the future. Does the Ascension Sect Master mean that you don't want to hand them over? The Formless Sect Master narrowed his eyes. You'll regret it. Boom! Following the Formless Sect Master's words, an earth-shattering rumble came from outside the Ascension Sect. Even the earth shook because of it. Tyrannical divine powers intertwined together. The clouds in the sky rolled and surged. Dozens of figures stepped on the void and walked over from all directions. In the blink of an eye, they surrounded the entire training field of the Ascension Sect in a circular shape, causing the expressions of many Ascension Sect disciples to change. Vaguely, these people seemed to have blocked all the exits, causing all the Ascension Sect disciples on the training field to tremble. They became a little uneasy. What were these people trying to do? Lin Tian stood on the central main stage and scanned the dozens of people. Then, his expression changed. A large amount of cold light shone in his eyes. People from the Golden Fire Dao sect. These dozens of people all had strong qi and blood. They were at the peak of the 4th heaven of the connecting immortal realm to the 9th heaven of the connecting immortal realm. Among these dozens of people, he realized that more than half of them had the same aura as the gray-robed old man that he met a few months ago. In other words, among these dozens of people, more than half of them were elders of the Golden Fire Dao sect. He shifted his gaze. A blue-robed old man from the east instantly shocked him. He actually felt the fluctuation of Dao from the old man. Great Dao Realm Expert. His heart trembled. P.S. 5th update. It's 4 in the morning now. It's tough. While typing, my eyelids are fighting. This chapter took me more than 4 hours to write. It's too far away from the estimated update time. Please forgive me. Then I'll resume the 2 chapters update today. Everyone, please allow me to rest for a few days. At the end of the month, I'll erupt again. The daily update will still not be less than 5 chapters. Finally, I'll talk about the 2 chapters update today. They're both after 4 in the afternoon. I'm so tired. I'll go and catch up on sleep. I'll also ask for a few monthly votes. Thank you, everyone. Chapter 576. Lin Tian narrowed his eyes and his heart sank. A great Dao Realm expert had come to the Ascension Sect. Moreover, no matter how he looked at it, he did not come with good intentions. He glanced around. There were a total of 83 experts surrounding him. More than half of them seemed to belong to the Golden Fire Dao sect, including the great Dao Realm expert. The remaining half of them had auras similar to the Formless Sect Master. He even found an old man in a Taoist robe in the crowd. He emitted a strong soul power fluctuation. He was actually a peak rank 7 array manipulator. This made his heart sink even more. Looking at this person and thinking about the dozens of people who dared to enter the Ascension Sect so casually, he guessed that the Ascension Sect's Guardian Sect might have been destroyed. What happened? On the martial arts practice field, many disciples of the Ascension Sect trembled slightly as a sense of fear rose in them. More than 80 people surrounded the martial arts practice field with cold and indifferent eyes. All of you! On the central main arena, the reclusive elderly Danyan's face was cold. Obviously, he knew that these people did not have good intentions. More than 80 people had cold expressions and did not say anything. Boom! 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 The tyrannical divine power fluctuation appeared again. Within the Ascension Sect, 11 rays of light rushed out. They all looked like old men and were the other 11 reclusive elders of the Ascension Sect. At this moment, they walked out with cold and ashen expressions and arrived above the martial arts practice field. It was also at this moment that laughter came from the high platform. It's only interesting when there are more people. The Formless Sect Master rose into the air and stepped towards the center of the martial arts practice field. Behind him, the other 2 elders of the Formless Immortal Sect followed him and stepped into the main arena. Their steps seemed to be very slow, but they landed on the main arena in the blink of an eye. People of the Ascension Sect, listen up. Your sect master has publicly humiliated my formless immortal sect and wantonly trampled on my formless immortal sect's dignity. This is intolerable, the formless sect master said. There is a saying in the mortal world that when the emperor is angry, millions of corpses will fall. As one of the 6 great immortal sects, my formless immortal sect is far superior to the emperor of the mortal world and is not easy to bully. In order to protect the dignity of my formless immortal sect, today, I have to take action and make the Ascension sect disappear from the world. What? The expressions of the disciples of the Ascension sect changed drastically. If they wanted the Ascension sect to disappear from the world, wouldn't that mean annihilation? Sect. How could the sect leader humiliate the phaseless immortal sect? He only refused to send Lin Tian and Gu Jianchen out. Everyone was terrified. Around them, there were more than 80 outsiders standing outside the training field. The weakest of them was at the 4th heaven of the connecting immortal realm, and 18 of them were at the peak of the connecting immortal realm. In addition, there was a great virtue realm existence. With such strength, it was definitely possible for him to destroy the Ascension Dao sect. Moreover, the most important thing was that the person who said that the Dao school of Ascension would disappear was the master of the phaseless immortal sect. The phaseless immortal sect was one of the 6 great immortal sects. Even if a dozen or so Ascension Dao sects were to join forces, they would still be far from being comparable to the phaseless immortal sect. Now that the master of the phaseless immortal sect had said that he wanted to destroy the Ascension sect, how could the Ascension sect still have any hope of surviving? One by one, the disciples of the Ascension sect trembled. They had joined the Ascension sect to cultivate, but today, they were all going to be annihilated here. Lin Tian's expression changed as well. Even though he knew that the 3 of them weren't passing by the Ascension Dao sect by chance when they first arrived at the Ascension Dao sect, and that they weren't here to watch the Ascension Dao sect's grand competition, there should be something else. However, he never expected that they would actually want to destroy the Ascension Dao sect. It could be imagined that the sect leader of the phaseless sect definitely didn't suddenly want to destroy the Ascension sect. This point could also be seen from the fact that the other dozens of people had entered the Ascension Dao sect. This was something that had long been prepared. As for the phaseless sect leader's words of the Ascension sect leader insulting the dignity of the phaseless immortal sect, it was just an excuse to make a move. Damn it! The reclusive elderly Danyan charged towards the phaseless sect leader, but in the blink of an eye, he was forced to the front by the 2 elders behind the phaseless sect leader. The 2 elders attacked at the same time, unleashing a terrifying palm strike that sent Li Danyan flying 100 feet away. Gu Jianchen stood to the side. When he saw Li Danyan, who was at the 9th layer of the Ascension Immortal Realm, being sent flying in the blink of an eye, his pupils couldn't help but shrink. How rude! This sect master hasn't finished speaking yet. The phaseless sect leader wore a smile on his face as he swept his gaze across the entire training ground. He said, Your sect leader and elders are rude, but my phaseless immortal sect is very benevolent. This is especially so for this sect leader. For the sake of people with talent, I won't kill all of you. I'll give you a chance. As long as you're a core disciple or above, as long as you're willing to leave the Ascension Dao sect immediately and join my phaseless immortal sect, you can avoid death and become stronger. As soon as the phaseless sect leader finished speaking, the disciples on the training ground trembled violently. Most of them revealed despair as they felt their bodies turn cold. The phaseless sect leader wanted them to betray the Ascension Dao sect. Only then would they have a chance to live. Moreover, only core disciples and core disciples had a choice. The others had no chance at all. They could only die here. On the high platform, the Ascension sect leader looked at the main stage in the center, then looked at the phaseless sect leader. There was not the slightest bit of surprise on his face, as if he had already known everything that was happening. However, although the Ascension sect leader's expression was not surprised, he looked at the phaseless sect leader coldly. There was also a different kind of light in his eyes. However, in the end, the coldness was even stronger. The phaseless sect leader raised his head to look at the high platform, the corners of his mouth slightly raised, and once again swept his gaze across the training ground, Successor disciples and core disciples of the Ascension sect, I will give you 10 breaths of time. If you stand behind this sect leader within 10 breaths of time, you will be considered to have joined my phaseless immortal sect and can live. After 10 breaths of time, those who do not stand behind this sect leader will die here. The atmosphere in the training ground suddenly became abnormal. There were dozens of successor disciples and a few core disciples. Many of their faces were slightly pale, and their expressions were constantly changing. In the end, someone rushed up and arrived at the central main stage in the blink of an eye, standing behind the phaseless immortal sect leader. Sect leader and elders, I'm sorry. I don't want to die. With the first person walking over, soon, more successor disciples and core disciples moved. Each of them was extremely fast as they rushed to the main stage and stood behind the phaseless sect leader. Many elders of the Ascension Dao sect had ugly expressions as they clenched their fists. On the high platform, the Ascension sect leader was expressionless as he looked at the phaseless sect leader. Master, don't worry. I will always remember that I was once a disciple of the Ascension Dao sect. At this moment, a voice rang out. On the central main stage, Gu Jianqin dragged his heavily injured body and quickly walked behind the phaseless sect leader. Instantly, the crowd's expression changed. Gu Jianqin? He is already this generation's chosen saint. Before he was a chosen saint, he had already learned part of the Ascension divine technique, but now. Shameless. Many people cursed. Many people could understand that others had betrayed the Ascension Dao sect, but Gu Jianqin had already been taught part of the Ascension divine technique before he became a chosen saint. Clearly, the sect had been nurturing him with all their might, secretly raising him as the next sect leader. Moreover, his master, Li Danyan, had even swallowed his pride and saved Gu Jianqin in the battle to the death. The sect master had even personally pleaded for Lin Tian to spare Gu Jianqin and not kill him. Only then was Gu Jianqin saved. It could be said that the Ascension sect had done a great favor for Gu Jianqin. Without the Ascension Dao sect, Gu Jianqin wouldn't be the current Gu Jianqin. But now, Gu Jianqin had betrayed the Ascension Immortal sect just like the others and stood behind the phaseless sect leader. On the high platform, the Ascension sect leader looked at the central main stage. His gaze landed on Gu Jianqin, and the complicated expression in his eyes disappeared. There was no anger, only a thick sense of mockery. In the distance, Li Danyan had been injured by the two people from the phaseless immortal sect. At this moment, he was staring at Gu Jianqin, so angry that his entire body was trembling. Ha 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 ha, good, good, good! The phaseless sect leader laughed loudly. His eyes shone brightly. He was very satisfied with Gu Jianqin. Raising his head, the phaseless sect leader glanced at the Ascension sect leader. Then, his gaze landed on Lin Tian. Young man, you should come as well. I can give you many resources that the Ascension sect can't. Your sky will be even wider. The phaseless sect leader was very surprised when he saw the battle between Lin Tian and Gu Jianqin. Not only was Lin Tian's talent shocking, but his intelligence was also extraordinary. He had comprehended a phenomenon in his sea of consciousness. He was very monstrous. Moreover, he saw Lin Tian use a few techniques that were similar to the king physique and king domain described in ancient books. He was even more surprised. King domain was something that only a king physique could use. Moreover, a king physique could only use one king domain. Lin Tian had vaguely used several different king domains. It was very shocking. It was very mysterious. Immediately, everyone's gaze landed on Lin Tian. Lin Tian's gaze was very calm as he looked at the phaseless sect leader. After 3 breaths, he stepped forward and walked towards the phaseless sect leader. That Lin Tian, he's also. After all, this is a choice of life and death. Moreover, Lin Tian is not Gu Jianqin. The sect does not treat Lin Tian as well as Gu Jianqin. Many people shook their heads. Ling Yun's expression changed. Why was Lin Tian walking towards the phaseless sect leader? On the high platform, the Ascension sect leader looked at Lin Tian with loneliness and disappointment in his eyes. Good, good, good! The faceless sect leader looked at Lin Tian walking over and could not help but laugh again. Then, he looked at the Ascension sect leader proudly. Lin Tian walked calmly towards the faceless sect leader. Soon, he was only a few feet away from the faceless sect leader. It was also at this moment that he suddenly sped up. Clang! The ear-piercing sound of a sword rang out. The sword in his hand vibrated. Lightning and fire intertwined as he slashed towards the faceless sect leader's left side. Gu Jianchen was standing there. This is? Such an action caused everyone's expression to change. On the high platform, the Ascension sect leader's expression changed once more. The loneliness and disappointment disappeared and were replaced by resplendence. The faceless sect leader was also moved. He quickly struck out with his hand. Lin Tian was extremely fast. His sword was about to hit Gu Jianchen, but it was still stopped at the last moment. The faceless sect leader's hurried palm strike surged and directly shattered Gu Jianchen's sword. Moreover, the remaining power was still very shocking. It directly flipped Gu Jianchen over. After he landed on the stage, he staggered several feet away and coughed up a mouthful of blood. What a pity. I was so close. He raised his right hand and wiped away the blood at the corner of his mouth. P.S. Today's second update will be around 9 p.m. Because I've been really tired recently, I haven't had much time to sleep. As a result, the estimated update time is always wrong and delayed. Brothers and sisters, please forgive me. I sincerely apologize to everyone. Afterwards, Dragon will try his best to adjust his mental state and update earlier. Thank you, everyone. Chapter 577. Wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth, Lin Tian glanced at the sect master of the formless sect before glancing coldly at Gu Jianchen. His eyes were filled with mockery. In the beginning, he wanted to kill Gu Jianchen because Gu Jianchen was overbearing and rude. He wanted to cripple him and provoke him. At that time, he only looked down on Gu Jianchen and only felt disgust. He was never angry. But now, he had some anger. The sect had been secretly nurturing him as a saint, and the sect master of the Ascension sect personally asked him not to kill him. But now, he betrayed the Ascension sect without hesitation and stood behind the person who wanted to destroy the Ascension sect. Trash! He said coldly. Gu Jianchen's face immediately turned ashen, but soon, a sinister look flashed across his eyes. Whether I leave the Ascension sect or not, the Ascension sect will be destroyed in the end. If I stay, I will only die with the Ascension sect. What's the use of sacrificing my life? Moreover, since ancient times, a wise man submits to circumstances. My choice is correct. The disciples of the Ascension sect were stunned. Then, they became incomparably angry and focused on Gu Jianchen. Shameless! Shameless thing! The sect has been nurturing people like you. Scum! Many people cursed. He betrayed the sect that he was indebted to and stood behind the person who wanted to destroy the sect. Yet he still said such righteous words. Gu Jianchen snorted coldly and swept his cold gaze across the crowd. I, Gu Jianchen, am destined to rush to the highest level of the heavens. How can my life be compared to mediocre people like you? If you die, you die. Even if you live, you don't have much of a future. But I'm different. I'll only get stronger and stronger. My world should be even vaster. Hearing this, the disciples of the Ascension sect were even more furious. Good, good, good. The sect master of the formless sect laughed. Cultivators should have the tyranny of cultivators and the cruelty of cultivators. Everything in the world should be given up and given up. As he spoke, the sect master of the formless sect looked at Lin Tian and said, What about you? As long as you leave the Feather Transformation Dao School and join my phaseless immortal sect, I can guarantee that I will give you resources that the Feather Transformation Dao School will never be able to give you, and your future will be smooth sailing. Lin Tian looked at the sect master of formless sect without any change in expression. He didn't say a single word. Back then, when he first met the Ascension Gate sect leader, the Ascension Gate sect leader had given him two powerful abhijnas. Then, When he was training outside the Ascension Gate sect, the Ascension Gate sect leader had even killed an elder of the Golden Fire Dao sect for him. As such, how could he possibly leave the Ascension Dao sect at this time? Leaving the Ascension Dao sect was equivalent to betraying the Ascension sect master. He, Lin Tian, was not an ungrateful person. He looked at the phaseless sect, indifferently and speechlessly. Without a doubt, this was the answer that had been given. The face of the Wu Xiang sect immediately sank. Lin Tian had refused. You rejected my invitation and refused to leave the Ascension Dao sect because you want to show these people your noble character and unquestionable integrity? The phaseless sect master said coldly. Put away your sarcasm. Lin Tian's voice was very calm. I, Lin Tian, have never thought of myself as a person of noble character and unquestionable integrity, much less show it to anyone. I just have my principles and bottom line. Sect Master has protected me several times and treated me with kindness. I, Lin Tian, understand, he said. Today, I will live and die with the sect. His simple words and calm tone were like the evening drum and morning bell at this moment, causing many people to tremble involuntarily. A drop of kindness gushing spring retribution. Everyone in the world knew of this sentence. However, how many people could truly achieve it? Now, Lin Tian had done it. At this moment of life and death, he could clearly leave the sect in exchange for a better future and a smoother cultivation path. However, Lin Tian did not. Instead, he chose to live and die with the sect. At this moment, everyone's gaze fell on Lin Tian. For a moment, they even forgot their fear and despair. Now, there was only admiration and reverence. Kid, well said! Ling Yun roared. The elders of the Ascension Dao sect stared at Lin Tian, their eyes sparkling with divine light. There was such a young man in the Ascension sect. The blue-robed great elder clenched his fist slightly. Sect Master did not misjudge him. A few months ago, when Lin Tian killed Yu Shaoqing, he personally went to the Ascension Tower to ask the Sect Master of the Ascension sect how to deal with the consciousness incarnation placed there. However, the voice that came from the Ascension Tower asked Yu Shaoqing's brother, Yu Qianling, to stop causing trouble. It even asked him to step in and stop Yu Qianling from attacking Lin Tian. At that time, even though Yu Shaoqing deserved to die, he did not understand why the sect master of the Ascension sect would do this for an outer sect disciple who had just entered the sect. Was he not afraid of causing trouble for a core disciple with a bright future? Now, he understood. At this moment, many disciples of the Ascension sect looked at Lin Tian and involuntarily clenched their fists. Their despair and fear gradually disappeared. More than 90% of these people were outer and inner sect disciples. When they had no choice but to wait for death, Lin Tian's simple and calm words ignited the passion in many people's hearts. We're going to die anyway. What's the use of fear and despair? We'll live and die with the sect. An older inner sect disciple shouted. Soon, more disciples of the Ascension sect shouted the words that Lin Tian now said. Live and die with the sect. In an instant the words, live and die with the sect, reverberated throughout the entire martial arts practice field. Some of the reclusive elders of the Ascension sect trembled slightly. These people were all old people who had lived for hundreds of years. It was difficult for their emotions to be stirred. However, now, their eyes flickered intensely as they looked at Lin Tian. This young man used his simple words to ignite the passion and fighting spirit of the despairing disciples of the Ascension sect. Formless sect master's face sank completely. Not only did Lin Tian reject him, but he also made the other disciples of the Ascension sect no longer fear him. Your choice surprised me and made me feel very regretful. Staring at Lin Tian, Formless sect master's voice was very cold. I thought highly of you and originally wanted to give you a bright future. Unfortunately, you don't know what's good for you. Your talent is astonishing. Therefore, your rejection is equivalent to your death. Since a person like you can't be used by me, you can only be killed by me. After saying the last sentence coldly, Formless sect master's figure flashed and pounced towards Lin Tian like a bolt of lightning. His cold killing intent was vast and mighty, and his sharp palm force slashed towards Lin Tian's head. Lin Tian frowned. He naturally knew that his rejection would lead to Formless Sect Master's annihilation. He wasn't surprised at all. He stepped on the yin-yang avatar and retreated quickly. The current him was definitely no match for Formless Sect Master. Scram! Almost at the same time, a cold voice sounded. The Ascension Sect Master's figure appeared in front of Lin Tian and struck out with his palm. With a bang, Formless Sect Master was directly blasted away. He only managed to stabilize himself after retreating 50 feet. Lin Tian stopped the yin-yang avatar and paused. This chapter is not finished, please turn the page. Lin Tian, thank you. Thank you for not letting me down. The Ascension Sect Master said. In the face of calamity and death, it was the best time to test and see a person clearly. At this moment, it could be said that staying in the Ascension Sect was equivalent to choosing death. Under such circumstances, Lin Tian didn't hesitate to reject Formless Sect Master's invitation and generous treatment. He chose to live and die with the Ascension Sect Master. This made the Ascension Sect Master very moved. Sect Master, please don't say that. Lin Tian's actions are what he should do. Lin Tian now said. As he spoke, he looked at the Ascension Sect Master and voiced the doubts in his heart. But Sect Master, why is the Phaseless Immortal Sect targeting us? You. As one of the 6 great immortal sects, it was impossible for the Phaseless Immortal Sect to attack the Ascension Tao Gate for no reason and to destroy the Ascension Tao Gate. Moreover, from the looks of it, the attitude of the Ascension Sect Master towards the Phaseless Immortal Sect was truly somewhat strange. The Ascension Sect Master looked at Lin Tian. He raised his right hand slightly and dense divine energy surged towards Lin Tian to help Lin Tian heal. Earlier, Lin Tian wanted to kill Gu Jianchen, but he was injured by Formless Sect Master. Let me tell you a story. The Ascension Sect Master looked at Lin Tian and said, Many years ago, a genius entered the Ascension Sect. His name was Toa Yili. He was only 11 years old when he entered the inner sect. That year, the Ascension Sect Master of that generation accepted him as a personal disciple. He took great care of him and taught him diligently. Toa Yili didn't disappoint the Ascension Sect Master of that generation. After receiving personal guidance, his cultivation grew even faster and he became even stronger. He advanced triumphantly. 7 years later, another boy entered the Ascension Sect. His name was Lu Wei. His talent was just as outstanding. From the outer sect to the inner sect, from the inner sect to a true disciple, from a true disciple to a core disciple, he gradually caught up to Toa Yili. Just like Toa Yili, he shook the entire Ascension Sect. The Ascension Sect Master said, To the Ascension Sect, that was a period of glory. Toa Yili was strong and domineering, while Lu Wei was free and easy. Although their personalities were completely different, and they didn't interact much, they were known as the Ascension Sect's twin prodigies. Not only were they respected by the Ascension Sect's disciples, they were also famous in the 12 sections. Many years passed. That generation determined the Ascension Sect's holy sun. Without exception, the final battle was between Toa Yili and Lu Wei. It was also that battle that changed many things. That battle was very intense. When Lu Wei was about to lose, the Ascension Sect Master of that generation suddenly discovered something extremely painful. His disciple, Toa Yili, whom he taught with great care like his own son, used a forbidden technique that could increase his battle prowess by several times during the battle. However, because this forbidden technique was incomplete, it required him to absorb a cultivator's source energy to cultivate it. At that time, he discovered that when Toa Yili used this forbidden technique, his body had the source energy of some of the sect's elite disciples who had died mysteriously. Those elite disciples who had died mysteriously were all killed by Toa Yili in secret and became materials for Toa Yili to cultivate the forbidden technique. At that time, the Ascension Sect Master of that generation was furious. According to the sect's rules, he was supposed to kill Toa Yili. However, in the end, he couldn't bear it and couldn't do it. Because of the many years of careful teaching, the Ascension Sect Master of that generation had already treated Toa Yili as his own son. Therefore, in the end, he only crippled Tuo Yili's cultivation and expelled him from the Ascension sect. As for Lu Wuwei, he became that generation's holy son of the Ascension sect. Originally, I thought that everything would come to an end because of this. Unfortunately, it didn't. Tuo Yili, who was expelled from the sect, did not feel grateful to the Ascension sect master for not killing him. Instead, he was filled with endless resentment. He resented the entire Ascension sect. It has to be said that Tuo Yili was very talented. After his cultivation was crippled, he actually re-embarked on the path of cultivation in an extremely short period of time and obtained even greater achievements. As he spoke, the Ascension sect master raised his head and looked at the phaseless immortal sect master. End of chapter. Chapter 578. When Lin Tian heard this, he followed the gaze of the Ascension sect leader and was immediately shocked. He is Tuo Yili? He could not help but ask. The Ascension sect leader did not say anything and only nodded lightly. Lin Tian's expression changed once again. Even though he could easily guess that the formless sex master was Tuo Yili from back then from the Ascension Gates master, he still could not help but be shocked when he received the Ascension Gates master's personal confirmation. The sect leader of this generation of the formless immortal sect, one of the 6 great immortal sects, was actually a disciple of the Ascension sect. This, the master of the formless immortal sect, how could this be? On the martial arts practice field, all the disciples of the Ascension sect were shocked, and all of them turned pale with fright. The 12 reclusive elders were not surprised at all, but their eyes were very cold. Obviously, they knew about this matter. Lin Tian looked at the Ascension sect leader and said, "Sect leader, then, you were the one who fought with him in the Holy Sun battle." The Ascension sect leader still did not say anything and nodded his head in loneliness. With a cold snort, the formless sect leader looked at the Ascension sect leader with a sinister expression. "Lu Wuwei, what is the meaning of your loneliness? I was the one who won that battle. The position of Holy Sun should have been mine. But that old thing crippled my cultivation for the death of a few trashy disciples and expelled me from the Ascension Dao sect, allowing you, the loser, to obtain the position of Saint Sun. Now you actually have a lonely expression? What do you have to be lonely about?" Staring at the Ascension sect leader, the formless sect leader's eyes were sinister. The Ascension sect leader laughed mockingly. "I only feel pity for the previous sect leader. He taught you with all his heart, and treated you as his own son. He hoped that you could become the Holy Son, that you could inherit the position of the next sect leader, that you could protect the Ascension sect, that you could lead the Ascension sect to greater heights, and that he was filled with expectations for you. But you, in order to cultivate the forbidden technique, secretly killed the elite disciples of the sect one by one, and used their source energy as cultivation nourishment, breaking the heart of the previous sect leader. That year, many elders requested for you to be executed. It was the sect leader who felt endless pressure and guilt towards the elite disciples that you killed, so he spared your life. He only crippled your cultivation and expelled you from the Ascension Dao sect. As for you, not only are you unrepentant and ungrateful, you even returned to the Ascension Dao gate with resentment and the intent to destroy your teacher, your benefactor. You call him an old bastard." The Ascension Gate sect master's voice was calm. There was no anger in it, only a hint of desolation. He felt that it was not worth it for the previous Ascension Gate sect master. Beside him, Lin Tian couldn't help but feel anger rising in his heart. A teacher for a day, a father for life. This was what the sages had said. He had always felt that this was the truth and that this was how it should be. The previous Ascension Gate leader treated Tuo Yili like that. When Tuo Yili secretly killed many elite disciples of the sect to use them as nutrients to cultivate the forbidden technique, when many elders demanded that Tuo Yili be executed, the Ascension Gate leader bore the boundless pressure alone. With the guilt and sins of those dead elite disciples, he only crippled Tuo Yili's cultivation and expelled him from the Ascension Gate sect, giving Tuo Yili a chance to continue living. This was a huge favor. A huge favor. However, not only did Tuo Yili not appreciate it, he even developed resentment. After obtaining greater achievements and returning to the Ascension Gate sect, he actually wanted to destroy the sect that the previous Ascension Gate sect master had spent so much effort on. He actually called his teacher, who was like a father to him, an old bastard. This made him clench his fists. Even though he also called an old drunkard an old bastard, old bastard. When he called him that, it was with respect from the bottom of his heart. He just felt that it was more intimate than calling him master. However, this To Yili was clearly different from him. Trash! He said coldly. The Formless Gate sect master looked over. His eyes were gloomy and filled with killing intent as he stared at Lin Tian. You are right. He is trash. Furthermore, he is the dirtiest trash, the Ascension Gate sect master said. The ridicule in his eyes became even stronger. His gaze landed on Gu Jianchen, who was behind the Formless Gate sect master. Do you want to hear about Gu Jianchen? Lin Tian did not say anything. He only nodded silently. After the battle with the Saint Child, who knows how many years had passed, the previous Ascension Gate sect master abdicated and took over the position of the Great Elder who had passed away. He became the new Ascension Gate sect master, and I became the new Ascension Gate sect master, the Ascension Gate sect master said. About 10 years ago, a youth entered the Ascension Gate sect. His name is Gu Jianchen. He is 18 years old and has a heroic appearance. Although their ages are different, Gu Jianchen is too similar to To Yili. They are equally domineering, equally powerful, and equally talented. When the previous Ascension Gate sect master, who was already a great elder, heard about it, his body trembled. He said to me that he seemed to have seen that person from back then. That person's cultivation was crippled and he was expelled from the sect. That year, as an old man past his prime, he bowed and asked the reclusive elderly Danyan to come out and accept Gu Jianchen as his disciple. He even gave Gu Jianchen a portion of the Ascension God technique that only the Saint, Ascension Gate sect master, and Great Elder were qualified to cultivate. Back then, when he crippled that person's cultivation, he said that he was guilty and did not teach his disciple well. As a master, he did not teach his disciple well and caused his disciple to go astray. He said that it was his fault. When he saw someone who was almost the same as that person, he wanted to make up for what happened back then. Back then, that person's cultivation was crippled and he was expelled from the sect, so he did not become the saint. When he saw Gu Jianchen, who was almost the same as that person, he wanted to nurture Gu Jianchen to become the saint of this generation. He wanted to make up for that man who was crippled and expelled from the sect. Lin Tian's expression changed. Many disciples of the Ascension Gate trembled as well. In reality, back then, after understanding Gu Jianchen's temperament, the reclusive elders and I all wanted to refuse the previous Ascension Gate sect master's request. However, when we saw the grief of an old man past his prime, we all agreed in the end. The previous Ascension Gate sect master had given his life's work to the Ascension Gate sect. Now that he wanted to make up for something, how could we refuse? Even though there was nothing to make up for. Furthermore, I myself had no reason to refuse the previous Ascension Gate sect master's request. From a certain perspective, I was the one who replaced the position of the person the previous Ascension Gate sect master had high hopes for. That year, the reclusive elderly Danyan came out and took Gu Jianchen as his disciple. Even though he did not like Gu Jianchen's temperament, he still taught him with all his heart due to the previous Ascension Gate sect master's request. He passed on the essence of the Ascension God sword that the previous Ascension Gate sect master had given to Gu Jianchen. He also gave Gu Jianchen a high-grade immortal sword and his own cultivation experience. At that time, we thought that even though Gu Jianchen's temperament was exactly the same as that person's, perhaps he was simply overbearing and arrogant. We did our best to nurture him and gave him all the resources of the sect. We even sided with him in a fair battle of life and death. We had already decided internally that he would become the saint of this generation, the next Ascension Gate sect master. The Ascension Gate sect master raised his head and glanced at Gu Jianchen. He said mockingly, "It's a pity that the outcome was like this. The disciples of the Ascension Gate trembled. No wonder the reclusive elder, who only appeared when the sect was in danger, would personally come out to take in a disciple. No wonder Gu Jianchen had already learned the Ascension God Sword before becoming a saint. No wonder the Ascension Gate sect master would personally ask Lin Tian to spare Gu Jianchen's life when Gu Jianchen lost to Lin Tian in a battle of life and death. As it turned out, everything was because of the previous Ascension Gate sect master. Even some of the regular elders were shocked. There was actually such a hidden story regarding Gu Jianchen. Lin Tian's eyes were cold. He glanced at Gu Jianchen and the coldness in his eyes became even denser. The Ascension Gate sect master glanced at Gu Jianchen before his gaze landed on the Formless Gate sect master. When you returned to the Ascension Gate, you valued him at first sight because he had the same personality as you. In reality, he was the same. He was just as sinister, and just as despicable. When the sect was in danger, he could abandon his master without any hesitation. He could trample on the sect that had nurtured him so carefully beneath his feet without any hesitation. I didn't think highly of him from the very beginning. I sent an avatar of my soul to guard the Ascension God Tower and went to the Divine Accumulation Pavilion. It was there that I met the youth beside me. When I returned to the Ascension Gate sect, you asked me why I paid more attention to him than to Gu Jianchen, who was completely confident of becoming the saint of the Ascension Gate sect. Do you understand now? The person I valued, even when facing death, could have survived and had a better future waiting for him, still chose to stand by my side. He chose to live and die with the sect. The Ascension Gate sect master's eyes were filled with pride as he looked at Gu Jianchen and the Formless Gate sect master. Don't you find it ironic? Gu Jianchen trembled and his face became extremely pale. The Formless Gate sect master's face became completely gloomy. Enough! I don't want to hear about the past and Gu Jianchen's matters. Call that old bastard out. Back then, he crippled my cultivation and chased me out of the Ascension Gate sect. Today, he's sowing a grudge. Lin Tian clenched his fists. Sowing a grudge? What kind of grudge was this? A sinister, despicable, and ungrateful person. He actually said that he was sowing a grudge. The Ascension Gate sect master sneered. That's why I said that the previous sect master was too pitiful. Back then, he let you go under great pressure and gave you a chance to live. In the end, you called him an old bastard and sowed a grudge. How sad is that? Looking at the Formless Gate sect master, the Ascension Gate sect master's smile was slightly lonely. Now, the only thing that can give the sect master some consolation is that he didn't have to feel pain and despair when he saw this scene a few years ago. That's because the two people he valued betrayed him in the end. When the Ascension Gate sect master said this, everyone's expression changed. The previous Ascension Gate sect master and the current Ascension Gate sect grand elder had both passed away a few years ago? What did you say? The Formless Gate sect master's expression darkened. That old bastard is already dead. Lin Tian's expression changed as well. The Ascension Gate sect grand elder had actually passed away a few years ago? In the past, it was the previous sect master who pushed the Ascension Gate sect to the top of the 12 sections. When the previous sect master was still a sect master, he had already reached the Great Tao realm. However, because of what happened back then, he was sad and depressed. In the end, he accumulated an inner demon and died from exhaustion. Originally, he should have had a lifespan of more than 1,000 years. A trace of sorrow flashed through the Ascension Gate sect master's eyes. When his gaze landed on the Formless Gate sect master again, his eyes were completely cold. The previous sect master gave his life to the Ascension Gate sect, but he died because of you. Now, the Ascension Gate sect might not be able to escape the calamity of being destroyed, but you won't have it easy either. Today, I'll put a complete end to what happened back then. Even if the sect is destroyed, I'll definitely kill you. Boom! Powerful divine energy rushed out from the Ascension Gate sect master's body. The entire world was trembling, and there was actually a strong fluctuation of Tao. In an instant, everyone was shocked. Great Tao realm? Lin Tian's expression changed. You're tuning into the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.